It's not that loud, but I tried. Hold on. There you go. What better way to start a night off than a little Brady Bunch? How is everyone doing? Thank you, Steve, for being the only one to send me the recap. Let me know where you're at. Appreciate that. Now look to your side and just give her a scowl.
David's on his way in. He just had to finish up sending an email, and then he'll be right with you guys.
Awesome. So David Urbaniak is one of our ALC members. He's a mega agent, had a team. He's huge on philanthropic actions here in town. You're gonna love him. He has got some of the most quippy humor you will ever meet. He has nothing but a smart ass, and I love him to death for it. So you're gonna enjoy it. Give him a hard time. Be engaged. You're gonna learn a ton. He does a lot of listing stuff, so it's a great class to be a part of. And this is really the foundation of what you're doing for your careers. Needs to be listing based. I want you guys to focus on listings, not buyers, even though buyers are easy. Sarah, go change that right now.
Nah. I wear it just to piss people off here. Seriously, I love it.
It works. We'll drive to your house and hand you a U of A one and politely ask that you change.
Go buy her a U of A sweatshirt.
Oh. Well, the man, the myth, the legend has joined us, Mr. Urbaniak himself. I was just telling him how awesome you are. That you were.
Please continue.
Continue. Just keep selling songs. But anyways, you guys are in it for today. David's going to take over and run it. Like I said, one of our agents here, mega agent, team owner on the ALC, used to be a PC, does a ton of stuff for charity work. He's very well engaged with the Z Mansion and their charity work out there. So lots of great opportunities and how giving back. And I'm sure he's going to talk about how giving back to the community has given him business to build further and further and further. So lots of great information. Please, guys, if you can, unmute yourself, engage, communicate, be part of the conversation. As always, cameras on, be engaged. He's going to give you a break. I'll see you guys back around 11:30. If you do wind up going a little sooner than that, I'm sure someone will text me and let me know I need to jump back on.
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock, cool. I will see you back at 11 o'clock. Mr. Urbaniak, the floor is yours. Everyone, enjoy.
All right, thanks, Dan. Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
My name's David Urbaniak. I've been a realtor for, I guess, 16 years now, maybe 17. I should figure that out. Been with Keller Williams since they started. So I've seen the growth. I've seen the education aspect of it. I was a productivity coach about 2 or 3 years ago. I will say that, the education is so important to create a career in real estate. If you really want to have a career that'll be sustainable through the ups and downs of the real estate business, keep educating yourself, keep engaging in the classes, and definitely participate in Bold anytime you get a chance. The first year that I did Bold, I was a pretty successful independent agent, making over $100,000 a year, and did Bold. It got me on more of a schedule. I was looking at my schedule often and time blocking and doing more lead generating. And that year I did Bold, my business doubled. And that was the only difference, was doing Bold, holding myself more accountable, setting goals, and time blocking. So if you guys have some big whys, maybe you want to, be financially secure. Maybe you want to pay off some college loans, some cars, some credit card debts. Set your goals, tell them to the people you love and respect that are around you. Tell them to other realtors, anybody that it might hurt a little bit if you don't hit the goals when you share them with other people. That'll help you do better with your goals and your mindset overall. So whether it's I always do one really big goal, and then I kind of break it down into some smaller goals as far as my career. And then of course I have my own life goals. So it's always important for you guys to set goals, tell people what they are so you know what you're trying to achieve, And then a little bit of a breakdown. We have the 135. If you haven't done one, look it up. And that will break down how you accomplish the big goal in 3 smaller goals and then 5 things you need to do to accomplish those 3 things. So the great thing about Keller Williams and what I love here is we really make it easy for you to have a successful real estate career. A lot of other companies, they just say good luck. They might help you with a couple pointers here and there. We are a company that will engage in your career and do everything we can to help make it successful for you. So lean on us. If you haven't already, find out who the ALC members are. I'm one of them. We are here to help you guys. If you have just real basic questions about an open house or a real tough legal question about the contract, of course, the brokers are always the greatest, doing the broker hotline and reaching out to them. But if not, reach out to an ALC member, reach out to a realtor who's been doing it for a while. And we're unlike other companies where we like to help each other. So I think that's great. Let's see, what else about myself? Dan said a little bit. I'm really involved in Z Mansion, the workshop program. If anyone's familiar, downtown on Church, there's the Z Mansion. It's a big blue building. They do weddings and receptions there. Well, the rest of the time, when they're not doing that for profit, they are a nonprofit that feeds the homeless and helps do medical treatments. And even we bring in veterinarians that check their pets and do different things like that as well. So my son and I are really involved in that. We go every Sunday and Thursday morning and feed the homeless a hot meal. And then he's taken up during this pandemic where he started doing every night at 7 o'clock, he serves soup and hot chocolate. So I would say this, it's definitely a good thing to get involved in something you're passionate with, something that benefits your community and the people around you that you care about. That's how we make our community better. That's how we make this place better for everybody. So whether you're passionate about pets or homeless people or women's rights or whatever it might be, get involved and you'll feel better about yourself and you'll see a difference that it's making on a local level. And that'll make you feel a little more hope and not so hopeless in the situation during this pandemic and just everyday life. All right, let's see. I'm just going over this introductory thing. Does anyone have any questions that we'd like to discuss before I get into today's material? It could be anything real estate related. All right, well, now that I answered all those questions, I'll be moving on. Anybody want to share any gratitudes? It can be grateful for someone who's helped you through this journey. It could be a gratitude of just something just in general. How about I'll start. I am so grateful for Kayla in our workplace. She just gives such energy all the time, super happy, always willing to help. Like, I don't know that she's ever had a bad day, but she certainly doesn't let anybody know that she's having a bad day. And that's something that's really hard to do just day after day with the grind that we have here at the office. So my gratitude today is to Kayla.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome. Oops, I forgot to do that. Anybody else want to share gratitude?
I'm grateful for these classes. I've actually been a real estate agent for a year and a half, and I've learned so much, put a lot in my tool bag.
Nice. Yeah, and that's what I love. I mean, I've been doing this 16 years, and I learned something. Anytime David Jones is doing something, I go. Anytime we have one of these, Aaron Wilson with his stats class, just educate yourself on your market and your career of choice. I mean, this is what we're choosing to make a career out of. So it's not a part-time thing. For those of you who are doing it part-time, I apologize. We can have a conversation another time. But yeah, I mean, you should take it, run it as a business. Don't just look at it as something that you're kind of doing, or when the business is there, then you engage. Let's see. Does anybody want to talk about any opportunities that they've seen for themselves in this journey, or something that they're excited about with real estate? All right, I'll go again. So my thing is that I think this is a great career because, every day anybody can be the best realtor in our market. So most days at our office, it's Danny Roth's team, but that's okay because today Stephen could be the top selling agent at our office, or maybe next week, Sarah will be the top listing agent in our office. Anybody can do that. There's no limitations to what you can do in real estate. You can go out and you can take 30 listings. You can decide, I'm just going to take 3 this year. So really there's no limit to what you can do and the success that you can have. And so that's really fun as you start to see that growth, as you start to kind of get excited for that. I really like that because in most careers, you have to wait. You have to wait for promotions. You have to wait for new opportunities. And as realtors, we have opportunities every day that nobody else does in their industry. So anytime you're not excited, call me, text me. I'll tell you why you should be excited about being a realtor. Okay. Real quick, just a little review about what successful agents do every day. We work on growing our business through lead generation activity for buyers and sellers. We make listing appointments and buyer appointments. So I always like what David Jones says, a successful day is if you made an appointment or if you went on an appointment. Anything other than that, you really should keep working. So make sure your goals are set upon numbers that are factual and don't mislead you. A lot of new agents, it's kind of exciting when you get your first buyer. It's a little bit like Lord of the Rings with the precious. Everybody's like, oh, I've got a buyer. Oh, it's great. I can't wait. Just keep in mind, I've been doing this 16 years and I only close about 60% of my buyers. So if you think about the reality as a new agent, you're probably only going to close about 30 or 40% of your buyers. So with that being said, know your numbers, know the facts. You're not really closing every buyer you work with, so you shouldn't look at it as a precious and that this is going to pay your bills. You should have 3 or 4 of those buyers to think, I will have 1 or 2 closings next month. Okay, does that make sense? Little nod, anybody? Yes?
I think though, as a beginning brand spanking new agent, and coming from a totally different industry and trying to learn as fast as possible. And I'm finding that, I need to be grateful and happy with whatever steps I can get, because it doesn't seem to be, that easy or that fast to get a buyer or a seller like right away. I've been on, this week alone, I've cold called, door knocked over 60 houses and gotten, 20 contacts, but I don't have any listing appointments yet or buyer appointments yet.
And that's a good point. When you're just starting off, it's about kind of building your numbers up because, obviously I've been, working with people, buyers and sellers, investors doing real estate now for over 16 years. And so I do have past clients that sometimes just reach out, or when I reach out to them, I get really good responses. But again, it's a numbers as you're starting off. So it's great that you're door knocking. It's great that you're going out and picking up those 20 contacts. And yes, that's the downside to real estate is not all 20 of those contacts are going to be ready to buy or sell in the next, 30 or 60 days like you need them to generate a good income.
Right.
What you need to do is just keep them kind of on the back burner. You find out through the process who are your A buyers and sellers. And then you have like B buyers and sellers and C's, you kind of put them in groups. The A buyers and sellers are ready, willing, and able. There's nothing stopping them, and you should be talking to them every day if you can. The B buyers and sellers are people that say, well, maybe next month, maybe in a couple of months, maybe if I get the right price or something else. Those are still good to drip on and talk to often. You just don't want to make it the whole focal point of your workday. But you do want to designate at least a day a week where you go back and contact all of those people that said maybe next month, maybe 4 months. So developing some type of system to drip on those, because I know when you start off, you start off with a couple buyers, like you're saying. And so you're really appreciative of those and you are spending all your time on them. But just keep in mind and keep time blocking a little bit of a section every week where you go back and talk to people. Maybe you met at an open house, 2 months ago and they weren't ready then. Or go back and talk to maybe some family members that said they might think about selling next year. The other coaching advice I always give is everybody lies, and not intentionally, but just they don't really know what they're doing until they do it. So when you ask someone, when would you like to buy or sell? And they say next year, any number they give me, whether it's a year, 2 years, 6 months, I always cut that number in half and I write that down. So if they tell me we're going to buy something next year, in 6 months, I contact them. And I say, hey, it's Dave. I'm just checking in. Last time we talked, you thought, you're about a year away from purchasing a home. I believe you're in a lease until July. I know it's only January, but I just want to check in and kind of see if anything's changed. If you want to start looking at some of the down payment assistance programs, working with the lender, checking your credit now, so that we're already hitting the ground running, before the lease is up in June. So if you do those follow-up calls and if you take those notes, you'll have a higher success with the people that you're contacting. Right now, because you're starting up new, just going door to door, you're going to have a low percentage of success. And so it's going to be frustrating. Something I do too is I just kind of say, again, it's a numbers game. So if you're willing to make, 50 contacts, 50 calls a day, or even 20 or whatever, maybe 10 is overwhelming. So just start with 5. But if you commit to doing that and tracking your numbers and success rate, you'll be able to see what kind of career you're going to have. And if you need to make more calls, or if, 5 a day is enough to make the career that you want. But ultimately, it's only yourself that you can hold accountable for your business and decide if you want to do more business, then it's easy. Time block more work, and then also making sure that it's productive work that you're scheduling. You mentioned, that it's hard to find buyers and sellers right at the start. It is. It's also hard being uncomfortable with the buyers and sellers that are out there. So for instance, any of us right now could jump on the computer and pull up forsalebyowner.com, and we would find at least 10 to 20, maybe 30 sellers that are ready, willing, and able to sell. You got to come over some hurdles of why they don't want to work with, an agent. But ultimately, there's a list of people that right now that are ready to sell. If you wanted to, you could go back in the MLS and look at some of the expireds or withdrawns. And those, again, are people that were ready to sell. So you can get a good jump there. They're not the funnest people to work with. You're going to have a lot of roadblocks. But when I started, I had just moved here from the Midwest. I didn't know anybody. And I just worked for sale by owners. I just went up to their doors. I walked around neighborhoods. I called them. I made appointments. I followed up. And that was my whole business when I started. And so what I think that did for me, because everybody says for sale by owners are the most difficult and don't even bother with them, is it made me overcome the biggest obstacles first. And so then to me, everything else was a little easier. So that's kind of another statement we say sometimes of just, in the morning when you have daunting tasks, do the toughest ones first. Get them done with, you'll feel more accomplished. I forget what David Jones says, something about eating the frog or bite the frog or something. It's whatever, like the big task that seems overwhelming. Do that one first, get it done. So I like to do for sale by owners in the morning. I like to do expireds. Anybody that I think, might be more challenging, get it done in the morning. It's so much easier to call or text friends and family members in the afternoon or evening. So a little advice there. Sorry, I get a little off track. The other things you want to be doing as a successful agent is you want to make buyer presentations and listing presentations. So if you haven't yet, you should start looking at some of the systems that we have that can put together a buyer presentation for you, a buyer's packet of information. We also have listing packets, listing information that you can get, and then start doing the process, whether it's with a partner, with a family member, or with another agent. Find an accountability partner, get together and go over some of the presentation packets, because every time you do it, you're going to get a little better at your presentation. So for instance, when you first sit down with your first seller for your first listing appointment ever, I would hope that you've already done it at least 6 to 10 times with another agent or a loved one or just a complete stranger if you want. Although it's a little awkward, you should kind of explain what's going on. But it's just getting in there and feeling more comfortable with what you're saying, so that when you're in the situation of the listing appointment, you're not, stumbling over your words. If they ask you something, you're not, oh, wait, hang on, I got to stick to my notes because I've never done this before, so I can't answer that question right now. It just looks bad. You want to look like the real estate professional. You want to have a good outline of what your goal is and what you're hoping to accomplish at that appointment. Whether it's to educate a buyer on the process and commit that buyer to working with you, or whether it's a listing presentation and you're trying to show them how you, as the successful agent, can net them the most money and explain the process of why it's easy and painless to work with you. The last thing you should do as a successful agent is preview real estate. If you're not busy with appointments and cold calls and all the other stuff that we encourage you to do, the one little busy work that is fun as well is to go preview properties. So go do that. Again, my suggestion would be make it something that's going to maybe yield some business from you. Try to preview for sale by owners. Try to preview expireds. Ask somebody, who just took their house off the market if maybe you could come by and take a look at it to see if it's a good fit for any of the qualified buyers that you're working with. If you can, ask them if they're familiar with the tools and techniques that you use to sell real estate fast and for top dollar. I promise you they will not know your tools and techniques. No one does. No one remembers a realtor's tools and techniques. So you say that and they go, oh no, I'm not familiar. And you say, well, I would love to come by. It only takes about 10 or 15 minutes to kind of show you what I do different to get houses sold fast and for top dollar. Great. Would tomorrow at 2 o'clock or Saturday at 12 be better? One thing you'll keep hearing from the coaches, I hope, is that you always give an either or. Don't give a yes or no question to buyers or sellers. Give them an either or. If you give them an option, they're like 90% likely to pick one. And then most of the time, the other 10%, they'll give you a third option that works for them. If you ask them if we could meet sometime next week to talk about selling their house, they'll say, yeah, sure, give me a call next week sometime. But if you say, would Tuesday or Wednesday at 4 o'clock work for you? Now you've booked an appointment. Now you have a potential listing that you can get from that listing appointment. Okay. Although technology has advanced, most sellers are not going to list without meeting you or without having you see the house. So again, that's part of the previewing real estate. Get that as part of your whole setup where I'm previewing properties and I'm also having a shot at a listing and maybe getting better at my back and forth with the for sale by owner. Does that make sense? All right.
David, can I tack on real quick?
Of course.
So I just want you guys to all, I know that you guys it's Friday, but one of the best things that you will learn from David Urbaniak is talking to clients with care and not having commission breath, which is very common in a new agent, as I know you guys are wanting the paycheck. But everything that David is saying is you're going back to the client and you're caring about the client, which will then in turn get you the commission without you coming off as so hungry for it. So just focus on what he's saying. A lot of the scripts that he has is from his own experience, as well as he's taken bold a bajillion times. But you want them to continue saying yes before you set the appointment, and you want them to know that you care about them, not your commission. Sorry.
No, that's great points. I love Kayla. She's awesome. So yeah, definitely. My big thing that I always said as a coach is come from contribution. So if you can find, everybody's motivated by their big why. Mine is my family and Z Mansion. I will do anything to provide for my family and the people at Z Mansion that count on me. Feeding the homeless, I'll do anything. So for me, making 2 more uncomfortable phone calls, I feel like is the least I can do for someone who doesn't have a hot meal or a place to sleep tonight. And if I can do more calls and make more money, then I can give more to that foundation. So, and then of course, my family before Z Mansion was a big motivation to always make sure my family was provided for and taken care of. So whatever your big why is, you need to use that as your motivation. But in the same sense, acknowledge that everybody has a big why. And so when you talk to a buyer or seller, what is their big why? What is their motivating factor of what they want to try to accomplish and why they're meeting with you? So for a lot of people, they'll address just, like Kayla was saying, and I totally understand. When I first started real estate, I was waiting tables. My wife was pregnant, or no, she had given birth to our son. But when we moved here, she was pregnant. I was getting my license while she was pregnant. So I had a newborn. I was waiting tables, 2 different restaurants to just get by. I started real estate. It took me 6 months before I got my first commission check. It was tough. I quit one of the restaurant businesses because I knew I needed to put more time into real estate. I had to take that jump, and really commit. I remember a mentor early on was saying, kind of joking about, if you really want to produce, go and lease a vehicle that you can't afford, because then you either have to produce to pay your lease or you lose your car. I don't go that extreme, but I do think it's a good idea, to always kind of keep in mind, what are your goals? What are you hoping to accomplish? And we do have the saying in bold, if there's no pressure, there's no diamonds. So you do have to put pressure on yourself and you do have to be uncomfortable. But I do like how Kayla pointed out that if you're so focused on the commission, or if you seem so hungry for the business, that you're not making it, human and making that interaction a personal thing. Cause that's why people list with us. I mean, some people get listings because of their business, the Danny Ross of the world, the Marcy Willems, they'll just get calls and emails sometimes because of the numbers they do. But for the rest of us, we're going to get the business because people connect with us and they feel like, wow, Sarah's just like me, wow, Christian's just like me, I want to work with him. That's how you get the business. So making yourself relatable and coming with contribution. If you know a family is selling their house here to move to Texas, what are some things you can do to come with contribution to help them? This is open questions. Now you give the answers.
Find an agent for them in Texas. We have the resources to do that, or find them. I've been working on putting together a community guide specifically for Tucson, for people who move out of town. They have, sometimes it's hard to find like little mom and pop shops that have the great tacos or whatever. So little things like that. Exactly right.
If I found out Sarah and her family were moving to Texas, the first thing I would say is, Sarah, what I'd love to do is get you in touch with one of the top agents in that area of Texas that you're looking for. What's the neighbor? Is it Austin? Is it Houston? Where are you going? Okay, Austin, great. I'm going to get one or two of the top agents out there to reach out to you, kind of find out what you're looking for, and start kind of explaining the process to you and helping you see houses even before you get out there. What are some other things, Sarah? Would moving trucks, would some movers help? Do you have a package with the company that you work with where they're going to relocate you? What's the time frame on, trying to get the house sold? I always make it more relatable to the seller in that situation of how long do you want to be in the home? When are you going to be moved out? Are we doing showings while you're still there? What would be the most easiest for you and your family to kind of facilitate through this? Because if you've ever moved across country, and I did it with the pregnant wife and all our belongings, it's very stressful. And for anybody to offer any kind of assistance, even if it's just to say, hey, Sarah, I'm here for you. If you need anything, just call my cell phone. I'll find out, a moving truck. I'll find out, a taco shop, whatever, you need in the area. And then just having that connection and feeling that sense of someone else is on my side helping me. Sarah's going to be a lot more likely to work with me when it's time to sell her house and go through that transaction and the stressful process than any other agent who hasn't offered to help on the Texas side or with the moves or with the cleaning company or just, all that information that can seem so overwhelming about this, selling your home process. Does that make sense? So definitely coming from contribution, asking them how else you can help in other markets, asking them how they can help with their current situation. And then I always end with, who else do you know that's thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate that I could help today? I'll do it a little slower because I do it so often. Who else do you know that is thinking about buying or selling real estate that I could help today? 9 times out of 10, I get, I can't think of anyone right now, but I'll definitely let you know, or this or that. Then my follow-up to that is, thank you so much for taking that time. Is it okay if I check back with you in a week or two to see if you've thought of someone, or maybe someone in your circle has, mentioned that they are thinking about buying or selling? 10 out of 10, they say, sure, no problem, Dave, you can call me anytime, because I'm not giving them a task to call me or any kind of homework. I'm saying I will call them back in a week or two to check to see if they thought of anyone. Now, the first time you do this and you call them back, most of the time they will not have thought about you since they hung up the phone call. Most of the time they will just, go on with their life and not remember you. Then you call them back and you go, hey, Heather, we talked 2 weeks ago. You said you didn't think of anyone that was, buying or selling right now. I said I'd call you back. Well, it's been 2 weeks, I'm sure now, because you've thought of it, you're hearing people talking more about buying or selling. So Heather, I'm just calling you today to see if you've, heard of anyone in your area that's thinking about buying or selling, maybe at work or maybe your friends. Still no one, Heather? You can say yes or no.
Not in the area.
Okay. All right. Well, keep me in mind, sometimes it's at work, sometimes it's through church or different activities or groups. And like I said, I'd love to help someone of your friends or family, because you're a great person that I worked with before or that I know. So keep me in mind. And is it okay if I check back again in a couple more weeks? Because I know that now you're going to start hearing some people talk about it. I just know that's what always happens once you buy a white truck. Then you see all those white trucks on the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, Heather. So I'll check back in a couple weeks and maybe you'll think of someone then. But thanks so much for taking time today to talk to me. And I hope you and your kids are doing well.
All right.
All right. So it's that simple. Now, then the third time I call Heather back, she's going to start thinking, man, this David's not giving up. He's going to keep calling me. Let me think of someone. Let me come up with someone. And Heather will either fall into two categories for me. Either one, someone that I keep just dripping on that may never produce a lead for me, and that's okay. Those are important too. And then she might become someone that's kind of working for me, and she might start finding people for me and even sometimes calling me and going, hey, Dave, it's Heather. And someone at my work just mentioned they're thinking about selling a house, and I really think you should give them a call, and here's their information. Now, it's like less than 10% of your database, but if you work it right, you can get around 7 or 8% of your database that will actually produce business for you and do these follow-ups and calls and tell you, yes, my sister is buying. Great, here's her information. So that's part of the communication and the interaction where you come from contribution, but then you also make it part of business. And one thing just on my side notes that I brought in, you guys see this, or is it backwards? The Ford method. Do you guys know about the Ford method?
Yep.
Okay, good. So the Ford method is basically family and friends. You can ask questions about family and friends. So how's your family? How did you meet your spouse? Where are you originally from? What's your family up to during this pandemic? Whatever. The second option is occupation. What line of work? How's work going? You know, has the pandemic affected your job at all? These are all really easy questions to ask, especially at this time in our crazy world, you know. And then you get to recreation. What do you do on the weekends? You know, did you ever do that trip overseas with your wife to France, or what's going on with the next cruise that you guys are taking? You know, make it more recreation and fun. And then dreams. Do you guys have any plans? Once this pandemic's over, where are you traveling to first? You know, what's still left on your bucket list? All these things, you know, it helps people to kind of put down our walls and kind of just be more open for a good, engaging conversation. And so that's what we want to do with our clients, is we want to make them think and know that we're here for them and we actually care about them. And it's not just that we're only interested if they have a paycheck for us. Because really, that's not the truth. I mean, I don't think any of you would only talk to me if I gave you money. I don't think you guys wouldn't help the person next to you unless they gave you money first. Most realtors, most people are good-hearted people that want to help people and want to do good in the world. So try to do that. Try to put that energy out there, and you know, you'll get it back from people. All right. Once again, I'm off track. Let's get back on here. All right. So today we're going to be focusing on lead generation with buyers and well, actually, we're just going to work the sellers, not the buyers so much. So if you want to follow along in your books, I'm on page 4 now, just kind of going over the outline of what we're going to do today. Of course, we have to mention on the do not call list, pay attention to that. There's fines. There's, you know, you can get a suspended license. You can get fined thousands of dollars. So you want to make sure you're following the do not call list. Just as a side note, if you do happen to talk to someone who says they're on the do not call list or who's very upset, don't panic. Don't raise your anger level to theirs. Just apologize profusely. Tell them I'm sorry. I'll make the correction. I'll make sure that the other agents at my office don't call you. We'll send out an email to all the agents so they know.
Where do you get that? You just look it up or something? Do not call list or?
Kayla? Oh, Kayla's not paying attention. Okay, so I don't know exactly where the do not call list is. I'm not the best at it. A lot of times when you get numbers that are public, they'll say DNC next to it, do not call. So like I subscribe to Landmark or something, and they provide expired phone numbers and FSBO phone numbers, and then it just says if they're on the do not call list or not.
Yeah, I think you can get it from your market center. I've seen it in some of the material from classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, so
I've
if
seen
you
it
want
recently, so if I can find out, I'll let you guys know.
I can get the resource your way, Nicole.
There you go. So yeah, just ask, send an email to Kayla if you want that list. Obviously they keep updating it. And then our office will also, when we have an interaction with someone who's upset and yelling at us or threatening to sue or calling the office back, they will send out an email to the office saying, please do not call this number and do not contact this person. And those are the ones you really want to stay away from, because they will, end up filing a lawsuit or doing some type of complaint against you. Okay, so yeah, do not call list. The biggest thing is just apologize, let them know you're sorry, and just be polite. No matter what they say or do, I've been sworn at, I've been hung up on, all that stuff. Never engage, it doesn't help. Just apologize and try to move on and let them know that you'll maybe even try to solve the problem by letting everybody else at the office know not to call them. And usually that's diffused every time. I've had 3 that got really intense with me, and all 3 times, 2 of them were okay at the end after saying all that, and 1 just hung up on me and never filed a complaint. So we were good. All right, so now we're going to go over the 4 different ways, primarily, that you can find a seller lead. So this is the interactive part. If anybody would like to shout out one of the 4 methods to find sellers.
For sale by owners?
For sale by owners, I think, is a good one. It's not on here, which is kind of funny. We have our 4 main things that we kind of, Keller Williams says, use your database. Open houses, I would kind of add for sale by owners in there. I mean, any kind of interactive where you're going to be public and try to engage in people. Open houses, I think they want to stress that because so many new agents don't think, well, I'm there as an open house to find a buyer, not a seller. I'm not there for a listing. I'm hoping to pick up a buyer and help them buy something. Well, the facts are that a lot of sellers come to open houses to see what the other houses in their neighborhood look like or going for sale before they decide to sell theirs. So it's definitely a good idea to be prepared with a listing presentation at your open house and kind of be ready to engage in a seller at your open house. Because I would guess probably 1 out of every 3 that come through is actually more considering selling their own property than actually buying the house that you're in.
Yep, and they're doing research.
Yeah, so they're doing research to kind of see what the market's like, maybe to research you a little bit to see what kind of agent you are. So again, you want to be careful not to just sell yourself as a buyer's agent and that you could help them buy, because maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they just want to sell their rental that's down the block. So be careful how you present yourself. And I would say this too, if you're ever asked a question where you don't know the answer to, I always think the best response is, that's a really good question. I want to get you a really good answer. Let me double check on something with my broker or another agent, and I'll get back to you today by 4 or tomorrow by 12. Is that okay? And most people will say, yeah, that's great. We can all see through the BS. When someone is running on with their sentences going, oh yeah, well, the market's up 20% this year, and it's, it's only going to double in the next 2 months. And, I mean, you start feeling that this person doesn't know what they're talking about. And when you're new, a lot of us new agents, it's like they joke about turning on the fire hose to get a drink of water. Like you're just bombarded with so much.
Yes.
It's really overwhelming and really hard for you to retain a lot of that information. So don't think that it makes you a bad agent. Don't think that it shows that you're inexperienced. Just give them that straight answer. Hey, I want to triple check on this. Make sure I give you a really accurate answer. Is it okay if I call you back later tonight around 5? Oh yeah, of course. No problem, Dave. Thanks. Great. In the meantime, if you think of any other questions, just call or text me, and then I'll call you back at 5 with all the answers. Sounds good. Great. Hurdle avoided. We got over that hurdle without having to lie or talk through our teeth or, the other end or whatever. It's like, great, we're good. We're moving forward. Some of the other things it says is your daily 10-4, checking on the different leads that you have in the database, checking on people that have shown interest. Maybe you met them at an open house. Maybe they're a Facebook lead or somebody from your friends or family. So working those. And then the other one is working referrals. Referrals is, again, kind of ties in with all of them, I feel like, because really, referrals are great when someone just gives them to you. But I think a lot of agents don't experience that until maybe sometimes never, sometimes 5 years into the business or something. So I would say focus on referrals as kind of touching everything, your database, your 10-4, your open houses. These are all people that you can get referrals from. You're at a newer stage where you'll have to ask for the referrals. And that's where I would say get used to just having a line at the end of the sentence, at the end of the conversation of, hey, it was great talking to you today. by the way, Joseph, who do you know that else is thinking about buying or selling in real estate that I could talk today? And maybe Joseph doesn't know anybody, and that's okay. And then we follow up with, is it okay if I check back with you in a week or two? And if you keep doing that, you're going to produce business for yourself. You're going to find people that are ready next week when you call them. And then they do think of someone. So keep on working on that. I think that's it for page 6. We're moving on to page 7 here, and we'll move a little faster. Qualifying and converting seller leads. So there's on page 8, there's some really good connecting questions. A really good class you guys could take is the language of real estate. It helps you put together the sentences and the conversations that you want to have to be more successful in real estate. So some of the connecting questions you see on page 8 is like the who. If you would, please tell me a little bit more about your family, job, etc. Trying to get a little more information in your database there. The what are you looking for? What do you want to do? And again, I will caution that keep visiting that with your buyers, because sometimes buyers say what they want up front and then they buy the complete opposite. It's kind of a joke in the industry. We say buyers are liars, and they don't know that they're lying. They just think, well, yeah, I want a single story out in Vail. And then they see a new construction 2-story out in Marana and go, I'm going out there, and it's like, wait, what happened to the single story in Vail? So I always just keep revisiting, especially if I feel like the buyer has kind of gotten stagnant on me. Like if they're just not excited about anything, then I kind of say, hey, Steven, I know we were just looking Rita Ranch, but I thought I'd just kind of send an open search a little bit more, show you some things in Corona del Tucson, a little bit more, central Tucson as well. And just to see if any of those things look good to you. So just look through that and see if there's anything you're interested in. And then we'll go back to the regular search of just Rita Ranch. Is that okay? And 9 times out of 10, Stephen will say yes. Every once in a while, I'll get a client that'll say, no, I only want Rita Ranch. And then, okay, now it's time to maybe door knock in Rita Ranch or send out a letter to homeowners. But ultimately, keep your search open, keep the conversation going with your buyers, and keep checking in. Also, we've got a great new feature on the MLS, the coming soon properties. So one thing that I always say at open houses and with my buyers, whenever I'm talking, whether it's a sign call, whether it's an open house, or whether it's just, someone I'm having a conversation with that's thinking about buying, I let them know that obviously everybody knows technology. Everybody knows Zillow, Trulia. They can go online and they can see properties. But if I told you guys that I can send you properties that are off market and properties that are coming soon that are not on these websites yet, is that something you're interested in seeing? Yeah, especially in this market where we have, less than 1 month's inventory, which means it's a huge seller's market, which means properties are selling fast. And I had my last reasonable priced house in like the 200,000s. We ended up getting 18 offers in on it. Went for 20,000 over the asking price. So like that's the market we're in. So for buyers, their ears are going to perk up. They're going to pay attention and continue working with you if you can tell them how you can provide them things that other agents can't. Again, it's coming with contribution. So if you haven't done it yet on the MLS, there's a coming soon category. You can click on it. You can set it up for automatic searches for your buyers so they get the coming soon properties, and then they have to reach out to you to see it, to schedule that. The other thing is off-market inventory. We used to have office meetings every month and talk about upcoming properties. Now you can still network through emails and social sites. And, we have our KW Facebook page where agents put properties that are coming up next week or 2 weeks from now. If I was a new agent, I would just live on that page and I would reshare the property that's coming soon on my personal sites. And I would just say, hey, there's a property coming up 2 weeks, I just saw Donna, I think, shared one. She's got a horse property one out in Vail. It's on like 3 acres for $500,000 with a pool. Looks really nice. So my whole thing would just be, let's send that out and see how many people are interested in something that I'm the only one showing them, because they can't see it on the website. They can't see it on Zillow. There's, maybe not even a sign in the yard to drive by. So if you can get in those little groups with investors or wholesales and off-market stuff, find out any properties you can. And even if you don't have a buyer for that, put it out there, because there's a buyer for it. You just haven't found them yet. And so if you start sharing more of those posts or just putting it out there to buyers about off-market stuff, they're going to think, man, I got to keep working with David because he's going to find stuff that no other agent can find for me. And as a buyer, isn't that what you would want your agent to do? Yeah. All right. You know, again, we talk a little bit about the big why, determining their motivation. Why are you moving? I've got one seller right now that said, I don't really care if I sell or not. I don't need to. It was going to be my retirement home, and I might just come out there and move in it after the pandemic. So I said, okay. So we listed it for more than any other house had been listed for in the neighborhood. And we got 3 offers. We got a cash offer at 408. Nothing sold for over 380 in the subdivision, keep in mind. We got a cash offer for 408, another one for 415. He says, well, no, we're asking 429 and I'm not getting close to that. And I go, look, I know what you want, but the comps don't show that, yada, yada, yada. So this last offer, I said, hey, we're really close to your numbers. What do you want to do? He said, I want to increase the asking price to 449. So I know, and I knew moving into this one, and this was the first one I ever took a retainer fee up front because I knew he was not going to sell his house the way he was motivated. So he's upping the price. It's not going to sell. And I know that. So make sure you're spending your time with good qualified buyers and sellers and not wasting your time with people who don't have a big motivation or the big why they need to sell. Any questions on any of that? All right, I'm going to keep moving fast, but anytime you can jump in and cut me off.
You said retainer fee. You took a retainer fee up front. What does that look like?
Well, in the listing contract, we have I think it's on page 3, but I'm not sure exactly. But in there, if you look it over, oh, and one thing I'd definitely advise you guys all to do is read the listing pack, read the listing form, listing agreement packet multiple times, highlight stuff you don't understand. So Danny Roth was my mentor when I started about 16 years ago. And he told me to read the purchase contract every night for 30 days and highlight anything I didn't understand and come in and ask him questions. And so the whole point of this is to know, like, you have to know your craft. You have to know what's important in your business. And, you know, obviously lead generation is huge. Negotiation is huge. That's where I think, you know, I really show people my worth. But it all boils down to knowing your contracts and knowing how to protect your clients from themselves. So if you don't know what the listing agreement looks like, if you don't know the verbiage in there, you need to read it every day. You need to read it multiple times. You need to highlight things if you have questions. And until you get those answered, keep highlighting, keep circling. Same thing with the purchase contract. If you can't go through a purchase contract right now and explain every paragraph to me, how good do you think your buyer is going to feel when you're going over the contract with them? And they ask you, well, what does this mean? You know, the due diligence that, you know, it's buyer beware, that after I close, you know, I can't get anything fixed or go after the seller. Is that right? If you don't know that what that paragraph says and what it means legally, how are you going to explain it to your buyer without scaring them? So go over the purchase contract, go over the listing agreement, know the paperwork. Those two are your most important documents that you have to keep producing over and over again with people. And if you know it well and you're smooth in your delivery, you're going to be that much more successful because people are going to feel easy and, you know, happy working with you.
Where do we find these documents?
So I don't know, Kayla, are you still there? I usually get mine through zip forms, but I know that's kind of gone away. I know a lot of the forms are on .loop.
What
I
was
was
the
gonna say
question?
.loop, I think.
Where do we get forms like purchase contracts and listing agreements?
You can get it through .loop, or a lot of people still use zip forms.
Yeah. So
I can't get you the forms. I am not a licensed real estate agent. But if you need help in like guidance through that process, those of you who are in the coaching program, Dan can help you with that. And if you are not in the coaching program, please feel free to reach out to me and I can get you to our brokers, or Dan can help you as well.
Yeah, we can send you any contracts that you want to look at or kind of review. And then, you know, again, technology's kind of shifted since I started, but I always kept a copy of a listing, you know, seller's packet in my car that had a listing contract, you know, other paperwork for the listing that you need, the lead-based paint form, things like that. And then I always kept a folder for buyers where there was a purchase contract, there was a Benzer, there was an ABA form, all the forms that I need, because you never know when you're at an open house or when you're at a restaurant and someone says, I really want to make an offer on this house. How do I do that? And if you have to tell them, well, I can get back to you in 3 hours and we can do it at my office then, or, hey, can I email you the contract in about 2 hours when I'm in front of a computer? I need all your information, you know, like sometimes that doesn't always work. So it's always nice. Or if you have that situation at an open house where you come across a seller and they go, well, I'd like to know what it's like to list with you. You can go right into your listing presentation. You can pull out your listing paperwork and try to get them to sign it right there. Or if not, follow up and say, I'll come over to your house once I'm done with this open house, So if you don't have the tools on your devices, then you should definitely just have old school printed out forms with you so you can do that.
I want to say one thing about having printed forms on hand. My daughter Charity and I were a team, and we did that. We went to a listing appointment, had the client sign the listing agreement, and we went under contract, closed and everything. And then it was when we wanted to get paid, our paychecks were on hold because the contract, the listing agreement that we used was an outdated one. So if you're going to have printed forms on hand, make sure you've got current forms.
Yep, that's always a good point. Our brokerage is really good about sending out a notice when there's a new form or an updated ABA form or an updated new contract. But yeah, and that's another good reason to stay in constant contact with other agents and coaching program and Bold and other educational pieces, because when you do that coffee with the broker or when you check into, some kind of broker class, they're going to let you know, hey, we've got a new page on the purchase contract. It used to be 1 page long, now we're up to like 11 pages. So they keep adding things every time there's a successful lawsuit. So we have to keep changing things.
If I may, David, I would also try to find somebody like another agent to practice your listing presentation and your buyer's presentation. I know they've told me that we can do that with our broker. She would sit down with you and allow you to go through the purchase contract with her, or a listing contract, which is the most important document in that presentation. I haven't had the courage to do that. But you can definitely do that, and I would highly recommend it because it makes you more comfortable talking about those forms. What do you think, David?
I totally agree. It's just like anything in life, repetition. The more you do it, it's just going to be a lot smoother and you're going to have a higher success rate. I think it's great to partner up with another new agent and just say, hey, let's do some phone calls, every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. I'll call you first, Stephen, and I'll be a for sale by owner, or you'll be a for sale by owner, Stephen, and I'll call you and be the agent. And then Stephen knows, usually I'll text and say, hey, ready for the call? I'm a for sale by owner or something. And then I'll call and say, hey, why aren't you working with an agent? I'd love to show you the tools and techniques that I use, blah, blah, blah. Then when we're done, we switch. Maybe Stephen calls me, or maybe we just keep the conversation going. And now Stephen says, okay, you're an expired listing. Okay, great. Yeah, my last agent sucked, yada, 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 great. And then you do the whole back and forth. I think listing presentations are super important to do over and over again in front of people. I really like watching Diana Kokoska's video too. If when you join Bold, they give you these old videos. I don't know if they still do, but I have them still, and you can borrow them from me. And it's a whole listing presentation that Diana Kokoska does. And I just watched it a lot of times, and I just listened to it, and now I just say and do a lot of the same things, and I have a lot of the same success. Go figure. That's one of the things at Keller Williams too. We say, it's not like there's secrets to success or it's very difficult. Like they're impossible solutions. It's just hard work. You just have to put in the work. You just have to do the grind, and you can get the results if you're committed to that. So
what is Bold exactly? Sorry.
No problem. I'm glad you asked. Business Objective Life by Design. It's a thing that Gary Keller, well, actually Diane Kokoska put it together from all her notes. So some of the top people that created Keller Williams and then created our educational piece to it. She was a single mom who decided to be a realtor. She's got a great story too. You can watch this whole video on it. And she, at the time in Denver, nobody was hiring female realtors. Every office just had their one token female realtor, and then the rest were all men. So if there was one realtor woman at the office, that was it. They wouldn't hire a second one.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Really?
I kid you not. You can
Like, what year are you talking about?
I think it was like in the early 80s. Yeah. You can watch, she has a little video that's really cool where they do like a dry erase board storyline about her events. And so nobody would hire her. So she found a broker that was actually a female broker, the only one in the Denver area. And she joined her company. And she decided to go out and put her kids in a wagon and go door to door, just knocking. And her line was, "Hi, I'm Diane Kokouskas with Keller Williams Realty, and I knew you wouldn't come to my office, so I came to you. Are you thinking about buying or selling or investing in real estate?" And that was it. She took the kids in wagon and she went door to door. And she created this huge empire, basically. And so her listing presentation is very interesting. I love watching it because she constantly goes for the sale, goes for the listing, which is what I always told people when I coached. So many people go over to the listing appointment and they start trying to explain all the things. Oh, let me show you what my photographer does. Let me show you this. Let me show you these stats. Let me show you the pie graph. Maybe that seller cares nothing about a pie graph or nothing about the market. Maybe they only care that you'll answer their call whenever they have a question. Or maybe they just want to know that you'll update them once a week on Monday. So I'll do my brief little presentation in this. I got directly from Diane Kokouskas. She always shows up on time, if not a minute or two early. She waits in her car until it's right at about the moment. She comes up a minute or two early. She knocks on the door. "Hi, I'm David Urbaniak. We had a 5 o'clock appointment and it's 5 o'clock. May I come in?" Yes. Now, every year she credits like 2 or 3 listings to just showing up on time because the other realtors didn't. I'm sure we can all relate to being late for an appointment. It's crazy as a realtor. Sometimes you think, I've got 5 minutes to do this task, and then you take a 20-minute phone call with a new buyer, so, but that's why time blocking is important. So she's always there right away. Then the thing that I kind of stepped up to be a little more aggressive than she does is what I say right away as I walk in the house. I go, "Oh, you have such a lovely house. Would you like to sit down and knock out the paperwork right away?" What do you think? It's kind of scary, right? I mean, to ask for the listing as you're walking in the door. You ready to sign the paperwork? I had 2 people say yes this year. So I just sat down and we did the paperwork. Guess what I didn't have to do? I didn't have to explain the market. I didn't have to explain my marketing, the comps. I didn't have to go over all these things that I thought they wanted to know when they were ready to sign with me. And some agents shoot themselves in the foot by talking too much about their marketing when the seller didn't even care about it. So 9 times out of 10, the response I get is, "Well, no, we have some questions about your marketing." Well, we have it depends on what price you can get us. Okay, so my other point to being a little more aggressive and asking right away if they're ready to knock out the paperwork.
You know what they're looking for.
They just gave me their objective, Sarah. Yeah. They just told me it's marketing. Okay, yes. Let's talk about marketing. You know what, David? We're not ready to sign yet because I need to know what price you're going to get us. Great, let's look at the comps and I'll tell you what price I can get you. Are you ready to sign now? Yeah, you answered our question. Okay, great, right here. I mean, kind of easy, right? When you do it like that. Now, keep in mind, I've been doing this 16 years. It's not easy. I still sweat. I still feel uncomfortable. Sometimes I leave the house and I go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that stupid thing about their dog," or "What was I thinking?" I mean, like we all have those moments. So don't worry about that, but just be aggressive, get your foot in the door, ask for the listing, ask for the business. I've seen agents go on listing appointments and never once ask for the listing. And then they leave and go, "Well, I hope they call me and give me the listing tomorrow." It's like, what? Ask for the business. Okay, so the other thing I'm really dropping the ball on is I'm not sharing the slide screen or anything. Are you guys following in your books? Do you want me to share my screen?
No.
You're good?
Can you share your phone number?
Yeah, it's 520-440-9229.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Could you back up to the part of the retainer? You said there was one time when you asked for a retainer or something.
Yeah, so what my pitch that I always like to do with sellers is it costs you nothing to put me to work. I start spending my time and money marketing and advertising your home. You only pay me if I do a successful job and get you that number that you want and we successfully close. Doesn't that sound great? So, usually I don't charge anything up front. I do that because I like to say that there's no risk in working with me. Put me to work. I'll start spending my time and money to advertise your home. And, you know, you only pay me if I'm successful in what I do. To me, I'm the type of upfront and honest guy. I like that type of sales. If someone pitched that to me, I would say, yeah, I'll give you a shot because it costs me nothing to give you a shot. You know, great.
Exactly.
You can collect a retainer fee up front, which a lot of agents do. Some charge a process and transaction fee, which, by the way, is another thing I always say at open houses that gets me more buyers than the other agents. You're all independent contractors, so you can decide if you're going to charge a process and transaction fee. I do think Keller Williams is going to start charging one in 2021. I'm not sure the amount. But ultimately, what I always say at the open house is when people tell me that they're looking, or maybe they're working with an agent, you know, or they're not sure, or they're just starting or whatever, is I say, hey, you know, whether you choose to work with me or not, just make sure to ask the other agents if they have a process or transaction fee that they charge. Because I know for a fact Coldwell Banker and Long have a fee somewhere between $400 and $700 that they charge for their clients. Now, working with me, I don't charge that fee. There's no additional fees when you buy. I don't charge anything. So that's good to know up front that you're not paying extra fees that you don't have to. Because as a buyer, every dollar really counts, whether it's the inspections, whether it's repairs, whether it's warranties, whether it's moving, buying new shower curtains, all that stuff. You've got enough expenses. You don't need to pay a realtor additional transaction fee or processing fee. What do you think? You guys want to work with me more than a Long or Coldwell Banker agent? I hope so. I mean, I hope it works. I don't know. Most people, I would think, yeah, why would I pick another company where I pay another $400 or $700 depending on the purchase price? Seems like you're a good agent. I'll go with you. So the retainer fee is something you can put in a listing agreement. You can collect a fee up front, and then you can either have it go to a credit towards the commissions when it closes or just a non-refundable retainer fee. And so with this guy, I knew it wasn't going to sell. So my first time ever in my career, I said, I'll take the listing, you know, for $1,000 non-refundable retainer fee. So he paid it. So then I made sure it covered my photographer, my, you know, videos, whatever I did for marketing. And then I still made a little bit. So it wasn't like shooting myself in the foot of why did I take this overpriced listing that's never going to sell. I will say this, for new agents, take any listing you can get, take any overpriced listing you can get. It will give you experience. Don't worry so much. You know, I'll help you with the scripts and the dialogue of how to get them to do a price reduction later. We like to call them price adjustments. But just take any listing you can get. Any experience you can get right now is good. So if the only hang up of you not getting a listing is you think it'll only sell for $235 and they want $245, just take the listing. Take it at $245 or $249 and say, hey, if we don't have any offers in the next couple of weeks, as long as you're ready to reduce to this price, let's put it in writing or something like that. And I can help you with that. I'm going kind of fast. But the bottom line is just get experience, get any inventory, especially in this market. Even an overpriced listing, you'll probably pick up a buyer and you might even sell it.
I've got an overpriced listing right now, and I told him going into it, and his reasoning was, he's an old man. He lives in Hayden, Arizona. The highest property, get this, the highest property ever sold in Hayden, Arizona was $42,000. And he's priced out at $90,000. And he tells me his insurance company told him in order to rebuild that house, it would be $198,000. So that's what he's insured. My first thought is burn it down then. But, you know, yeah, he's not going to get $90,000.
Yeah. No, he's not. You know, and that sometimes there's no convincing people. And so you just got to kind of walk away or really pay attention to the amount of time you're designating to him. Right. Because he can suck away from your other business and other potential checks, people that you can help. But, you know, in this market, let him sit, keep letting him know the market, the updates. Hey, another one sold for 40,000. Hey, 2 more sold there. You know, we're the only one not selling in this market. And here's why: we're twice as much, you know. Or sometimes I try to spin it and go, well, if you were a buyer coming into this market and you got to look at these 5 properties, one of them's yours. Which one would you be most interested in seeing? These 4 that are all priced under 50,000, or yours that's at 90,000?
He's the only house for sale in Hayden, in the town of Hayden. The last house that sold in the town of Hayden, I sold it almost a year ago.
Okay, so there's just not a lot of market or movement.
No. No,
Well,
it's dead little ghetto town,
there you
unfortunately.
go. Then, just wait. And I guess the biggest hope is to pick up buyers off of it.
Yeah.
Make sure you put a directional sign up, make sure you put a flyer box, some flyers in there, ways to contact you directly, and share it on the social sites every once in a while. You don't have to mention the price. Just go, wow, look at this beautiful, peaceful oasis out here in the middle of nowhere. Don't say that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All right, we got to move on. We already talked a little bit about the seller categories. You've got A, B, and C sellers. We discussed that a little bit. An A seller is ready to go today or sometime in the next 2 weeks. One thing I'll say about sellers, you'll always get this obstacle of, well, I just want to do some painting first, or I need my husband to clean out the garage or something. Don't fall short on that obstacle. We have an exempt delayed listing form. It's a 1-page form where the seller can decide what day it goes live on the market. So I can take a listing today with Steven, and Steven can say, well, I got to do this home project and some painting, so I'm not going to be ready until December 15th. Great, Steven. We're going to take the listing today. We're going to do this exempt delayed listing, so it won't go live on the MLS until the 15th. I'll check in on the 12th to make sure you're still ready for the 15th. And if you need more time, then we'll push it back a little bit more. But in the meantime, by signing this form and the listing agreement, I can start marketing and advertising it on Zillow, Facebook, Snapchat, all the social sites. I can start working on trying to find a buyer. And here's another thing that I do, which again, it's your personal decision in your own business if you want to. When I sign a listing, I always reduce my fees if I find the buyer also and represent both sides. Here's the catch. Most agents go their whole year without, it's called dual agency, where you represent both buyer and seller. Most agents go their whole year without having a dual agency transaction. If you give that buyer the hope, especially if it's a seller who is wanting to get you to reduce commission, I always say, no, I don't reduce commission, and here's why. You want to do the standard 6% commission to any listing. 3% goes to the buyer's agent. You don't want to reduce that in any way, or some buyer's agents just won't show the property. They're going to show the other houses that'll pay them more. So you can't skimp on that. Now the other 3%, 1% of that goes to my marketing and advertising. 1% goes to Keller Williams, the brand and the company. And then the last % goes to my family and I, which I really appreciate. So there's nothing I can reduce, because if I reduce one of those, then you're not going to get as much marketing and advertising for your house, which means you won't make as much money. You wouldn't want that, would you? I'm sorry, I go really fast. I'm trying to get a whole bunch of things in.
If you guys takes a lot of confidence. Everything that you're saying takes a lot of confidence to be able to say.
Yeah. But here's the thing, and I get it. Not everybody's like me. I mean, my wife is always overthinking of what other people are thinking about what we did or said. And I always say this, we'll probably never see them again in our life. Like, we will never talk to that person in line at the grocery store ever again in our life. So if they were offended that we accidentally, put one more item in our bag or whatever it was, which again, I'm a nice person. Like, I don't do things, mean or vindictive. So I would think if there's ever a misunderstanding, it's just that, a misunderstanding, because I'm a nice guy and would help you. So, you know what, no big deal. And yes, so I'm a little more aggressive in that, because I feel like, you know what, if I hit the seller on the wrong note and they're not going to work with me, it doesn't matter. I'm never going to see them again. We're never going to have a conversation again. So why not just go for it? I'd rather be more aggressive and get the listings than be kind of more laid back, subdued, and then wonder why I didn't get the listing.
Can I say something, David? For me, like you, like your wife, I overthink, and I'm always thinking, it's very easy for me to reduce my commission. It's always been. And until I joined Keller Williams in January, have I been taught to know my worth and my value, so that it's when I go to the table and I'm negotiating, it's not as easy for me. So Bernie, he's my son. He works with me. He's more like you. He's like, Mom, we're never going to see those people again. Who cares? So I just want to say, like, have those standards now, because then moving forward in your career, it'll become second nature to you to always ask for the money that you're working so hard for, instead of always giving it away.
Right. And I'll just expand on that a little bit more. I totally agree. You've got to be ready to give a response right away. And usually it's just no. Are you willing to reduce your commission? No, I'm not. Do you have any other questions? No, I read online that I'm supposed to ask. Okay, great. Well, we'll get the sign up tomorrow. We'll get it on the market next Tuesday. We're ready to go.
Yeah, and it's funny how sometimes that's it, and it, you know, nothing happens, everything's fine, everything works out. It's just having I think the courage to like say no at first, and then if you start getting a lot of objections, then you can go into more explanation. But I think most of the time they will take no for an answer and then and move on.
Otherwise, I know my guy Stormy Ellis would probably just say this one, like, well, you could go with a, you know, discounted realtor, but, you know, do you ever enjoy a really cheap or discounted meal compared to one that's like full price? Do you ever really feel like you got good service? Would you go to a dentist that would charge you just a fraction of what a qualified dentist would charge you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, if you bring it up like that and kind of make that scenario of you get what you pay for.
Exactly.
You know? And then you bring it back and you go, hey, remember, I'm not charging you anything up front. So you're not paying for anything until I've successfully sold your house. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Those other guys, they'll reduce their fees all day because they know they might not ever sell your house because they don't have the success rate I do.
Right.
That's why they're willing to reduce their fees and take less, because they're subpar realtors.
Or if it's so easy for them to reduce their commission, it's going to be just as easy for them to take a lower price for your property.
That's a good one too. I like painting that picture as well. Like, hey, I negotiate hard for my money and I'll negotiate that hard for your money. I'm not going to sit back and just give up your money when a buyer makes a lower offer or another agent. I'm going to fight to get you every dollar and cent. Now, that being said too, I do think that you have to be smart and look at the big picture. If a deal is falling apart, and maybe reducing your commission 0.5% or even a full percent will keep the deal together and closed, guess what? You're still getting a 2% paycheck. If that deal falls apart, especially in this market, and you represent the buyer, now as a listing, I wouldn't care as much. Oh, let's put it back on the market. I'll sell it again tomorrow. As a buyer's agent, if my buyer is falling out of escrow because of a $1,000 repair, and that means we have to go back and look at new houses in this inventory where there are no houses for sale, and they're going to be in a bidding war with 12 other buyers to get a house, and they might not get a house. We might have to go look at 20 more houses. We might have to go make 6 more offers. It might take me 13 more hours of time. Guess what? That's worth it for me to reduce my fees $1,000, close the deal next month, and move on to a new client. And then also make sure you paint it that way. So you go back to your clients and you go, hey, the seller didn't agree to this. This person, you know, and I never just give up commission. What I always say is, look, I usually say there's 6 of us in this transaction. You've got the buyer, the buyer's agent, the seller, the seller's agent, the escrow officer, and the lender. Now, if it's a cash deal, obviously you only have 5, but there's 6 people involved in this transaction that are all benefiting from it in one way or another. So let's say it's a $2,000 difference that you're trying to work out. Well, I obviously first try to get, if I'm representing the buyer, I try to get the seller to cover it all. If the seller won't, then I suggest splitting it. If they won't, then I go to the lender, I go to the escrow officer, I go to the other agent, and I say, hey, what if we all split it 6 ways? You know, that's only $330 each. Yeah, we can give $330. Great. We're all in. Then you go back to your clients, you go, hey, I worked it out. I'm giving a little, they're giving a little. I got the other agent to give a little. I really think, you know, this is a good move for you. So I want to make it possible, and I'm willing to take less, you know, to make it happen for you, because I think this is the house. If you don't feel that way, let me know. We can cancel and start over. But, you know, I just wanted to come up with a solution for you. You think they're going to remember that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know what? I find it doesn't matter if it's 300 or 3,000. You know, every client appreciates anything you do. You got to make sure to present it to them in the right way so that they know. And not, well, instead of making 12,000, I'm only going to make 11,000. That's not the way to do it, guys.
No.
Our numbers are big, but keep in mind, they don't know that, you know, our company takes a cut. Our business expenses is almost 1/3 of what we make, you know, for a lot of us. So when you think about that, yeah, those commission checks look big, but there's a lot to it. And so sometimes even explaining it to your clients a little bit more, you know, in the listing presentation, 1% for marketing and advertising, 1% to Keller Williams and the company, and then 1% to my family, which I appreciate.
You have to pay taxes.
Yep. Yep. And that's the other thing, as new agents, you want to make sure when you get your closings that you're designating some money for taxes, or you have a plan to flee the country. All right, so we talked about an A seller. We talked a little bit about a B seller. They're more, you know, next month, maybe right now you'll get a lot of, I'm waiting till next year. Here's my response to that. Ready? There are so many sellers waiting till next year that if we get it on the market right now, we're going to get a first crack at all of these qualified buyers that aren't waiting till next year to buy. Because even if they make an offer, they're closing next year, but they're ready to buy. So trust me, there's tons of qualified buyers looking right now. I'm showing some houses later today. And I really think, you know, that waiting for the first of the year only makes sense on a calendar, but not really in the real estate business. Sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why not? And then why not ask them, why are you waiting? Oh, we've got a whole bunch of people coming in for the holidays, for Christmas, you know. Okay, I get that. Well, we could put it on the market for the 2 weeks before and then just kind of not allow showings for that week if we're not already under contract. Guess what? You'll already be under contract in this market in the next 2 weeks. So you don't even have to worry about that, you know? And then the other thing you can pitch to them is, well, wouldn't this help to get rid of some of the uncertainty to have it already under contract before the New Year's? To kind of already know how much money you're making and, you know, where the next move can take you? Do you really want to put that off another month just because of the calendar year? They might say yes, they might say no, but
I have a potential listing that, so he's closing on a piece of property this week. And now all of a sudden he's going to pull some equity out of his house to build a little place for him to live. And he wants to sell that house to build a larger house on the property that he's buying, but he's starting and he's doing the.
Oh, she froze.
Construction work himself, but you know, it's a late listing that you were talking about.
There's nothing stopping him from selling, right? You said he just wants to pull equity out or something? I missed why wouldn't you just list it?
I think she's frozen.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess my internet must be a little skippy right now. He said that he's gonna build something small, like build the house.
I'm sorry, you cut out and it keeps cutting out. Maybe you could type in the question into the chat. But ultimately, yeah, I think any seller is a listing. And if there's any delayed for any reason, then you can do an exempt delayed listing. And then that allows you to put a sign up in the yard. It allows you to do flyers, marketing. You can even do open houses prior to it hitting the market, which obviously would get you lots of buyers in this market. But I'll come back. I'll check your chat in a little bit. Okay, so we got to keep moving on. We've already talked about asking for the appointment. I'm on page 11, asking for the appointment, asking for a referral, asking, just making sure that the connection was positive. All right, I'm moving on to page 13, pre-qualifying sellers. So this is important because you have to know if you know you're going on an actual listing appointment or if you're just going out to humor some seller who wants to bring every realtor out to their house but is never going to list with any of them, you know. So on page 13, it talks about understanding the seller's motivation, position yourself as the expert, win the listing, allow you to price the home to sell for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time, and properly set sellers' expectations, allowing you to create a great customer experience. I'd say that last one is the most important. I mean, obviously you got to get the appointments and all the other stuff, but managing our clients' expectations is the most important, like, career skill I can press on you guys. Like, you need to work on this, because if they expect that you will call them every day to give them an update, every time there's a showing, you're going to give them a detailed response about the showing, you know, 2 pages long, all about the buyer's names and where they come from. That's just not realistic. What I usually do with my sellers is I set them up and manage expectations right from the start. And I say, I will contact you every Monday of the, you know, each Monday of the week, and show you the update in the market. If any new houses have come on the market, let you know any new houses that have gone under contract and any new houses that have closed in the area. We'll talk about the current market, the showings, any offers that we had, and then review if we need to make any kind of price adjustments at that time. So every Monday I do a phone call or an email, depending on what my clients prefer, and I go over the market with them. And the reason I do that is because nothing looks worse than if you don't know that a new house went up for sale right next door to them for $20,000 less. You should know that. You should know if a house down the street just sold and sold for $50,000 more than what your house is asking. That's a great comp. You can tell your seller about that. You can tell potential buyers at the open house. All of those things, you want to get that information so that you are, educated. And then that allows you to set the expectations for your clients. If you don't correct your clients' expectations when they call you at 11:30 at night to tell you they just saw a new one that hit Zillow, they're going to keep calling you at all hours. So it's up to you on how you handle it.
You got to train them.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's up to you how you want to handle it. You can either just choose not to answer your phone, and on your voicemail, you can say, I answer my phone between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Any other, if you leave a message, I'll get back to you by the next day. Or you can, send a text and say, sorry, it's after hours. I'm with my family. Please let me know, if you have any questions or what's going on, and I'll make sure to get back to you first thing tomorrow morning. Is 7 o'clock too early or 8 o'clock, whatever time you start, But if you don't set expectations, then they're not going to know. I love a saying in bold that it says, we show people how to treat ourselves. So if we set the expectations on how we want to be treated, then that's how people are going to treat us. So you actually have to teach people how to treat you. So if you're not doing that, then they're just going to treat you any way they treat anybody else or what they think. Maybe they think realtors, a lot of the public opinion is we're right in line with used car salesmen and lawyers. So I don't know if you guys thought, the glamour and the glitz of the real estate industry, that people are going to think you're an awesome, respectable realtor and super great people. But no, they think we're right in line with used car salesmen and attorneys. They think we're sleazy. They think we're in it for the money. We make all this money and we're greedy and all this and that. So if you know that's what people are thinking about you going into it, how are you going to change and manage those expectations? Okay. Pre-qualifying scripts. I've got one here. This is from Bold again, and I can share these with you guys. You can also ask Dan if you're in coaching. He'll share any of this stuff with you. This is just a real easy script to call and pre-qualify your seller. It says, hi, this is David Urbaniak with Keller Williams Realty. I'm calling to confirm our appointment. So you already have the appointment. And then maybe this is a follow-up call on the day of or the day before, which I like to do to make sure you don't show up and no one's there. Or you show up and the kid's there, but not the parents. That's always awkward, and you prepared for a listing appointment. And so give them a call the day of or the day before. I'm calling to confirm our appointment on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Does that still work for you? Great. Before I come out to your house, I have a couple of questions I need to ask you so I can fully be prepared and save us both some time. Do you have about 10 minutes right now, Stormy?
Yes.
Cool. So if what I say makes sense to you and you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your house, are you planning to list your house with me when I come out on Tuesday at 2 o'clock?
I'm considering.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Now, do you plan to interview more than one agent for the job of selling your house?
I do.
Excellent. Well, I'd love to kind of find out who they are, and I can give you a list of questions that you can ask them so you make sure kind of you're getting all the same answers from both of us. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, so what I just did there is kind of, I feel like I elevated myself above the other agent because I said, hey, I'm on your side. I'll give you a list of questions and things that you want to make sure to find out, where the other agent's not going to say any of that. If anything, the other agent will just badmouth me or just skip right over. Oh, we don't like competition, Address it. It's there. It's the elephant in the room. Okay, more than one agent. Great, no problem. And then sometimes I like to know where I'm at in that order. Am I meeting with you first or last, Stormy?
You'll be second.
All right, but always number one in your heart, right?
Always.
So, if you know you're second and you're going into it, then a couple things again, if you can find information out about the other agents who's going, I never badmouth the other agents, but I just like to say, oh, you're meeting with John from, Terra Antigua. Well, one thing about Terra Antigua is they're not nationwide like Keller Williams. In fact, we're worldwide. We're in 32 other countries. We're in every state of the United States. We're, even neighboring areas, Mexico, Canada. There's nothing that we can't help you with real estate needs. And by working with myself or another Keller Williams agent, you're instantly having over 260,000 agents that are all working with anywhere from 5 to 10 qualified buyers. So the next biggest company isn't Terra Antigua, it's actually Coldwell Banker, and they have 40,000 less agents than us. Terra Antigua actually has, I think, over 200 some thousand agents less than us. So imagine how small your pool is getting of how many qualified buyers and agents are going to be working for your house getting sold if you work with a Terra Antigua agent over a Keller Williams agent. Does that make sense, guys?
Yep.
It's a big deal when you're number one. It's a big deal when you have more agents than anybody else. It's not a big deal if you can't explain to your buyers and sellers why that's important. They don't care. If you can't explain to them why it's important. And Stormy, the reason why it's important for you to list with a Keller Williams agent is we have at least 40,000 agents more than the next number 2 company in the United States. And so if you imagine that each one of those agents is working with between 5 and 10 qualified buyers, just imagine, Stormy, that's almost 500,000 more qualified buyers than the number 2 real estate company that'll be seeing your house on our shared websites. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Would you want to go with a smaller company that would only get you the exposure to maybe 10 or 20,000 qualified buyers?
Only if they charge me less on their commission, maybe.
Well, we can talk about that later, Stormy, because you really get what you pay for, keep in mind.
Okay.
I love Stormy. All right. So I'll finish the pre-qualification script, and there's about 11 questions in here. And one thing I always caution people is take good notes. Do this enough times so you know the questions, because if you're just reading it, then you're not listening to your seller's answer. And then you get lost if they throw you off and say, I've already listed with another agent, or my sister's a realtor or something. So it's good to go over this multiple times like we talked about before with the listing agreement. So let's see. Tell me again, where are you moving to, Stormy?
Well, I need a smaller house because this one's kind of big.
Okay. And how soon would you like to be in that smaller house? When I sell your house in the next 30 days, would that pose a problem for you?
Well, no, it's just as long as I have somewhere to live.
Oh, great. So would you like me to help you find a smaller property as well?
Yeah, you gotta downgrade.
Sounds great. Well, Stormy, I'd love to. And one really great thing is I do, I really reward clients that do multiple transactions with me. So if you've been buying your next house with me, when we list the house, I'll reduce my commission a little bit. So it gives you more money in your pocket for that purchasing side. Does that sound good?
Yeah, no one's offered that yet.
Yeah, well, I'm one of a kind. You'll find that out. So, going over those things, finding his motivation. The next question on the list is, what would happen if your house does not sell, Stormy?
Then I wouldn't want to buy another one.
Okay. But you just wouldn't be happy in your current one, right? Because it's just so big. You're having to clean all those rooms. You're not even, seeing your dogs because they're on the other end of the house.
Yeah, it's just too big for me.
So the whole point of these questions is we're finding out his why. We're finding out his motivation. And if it's a strong enough motivation that it's this big house is costing so much in utilities and he's only using 1 bedroom and, he could get a smaller house. And then I would add to it, what would you do with all that extra money you're going to make when we sell the bigger house? Are you going to pay off a car loan? Are you going to go on a cruise? Are you going to, save for one of your kids' college funds? You kind of plant seeds if they don't give you something, and then you watch their reaction. If something sparks, I know Stormy's passionate about his kids. So if I saw his eyes perk up when I mentioned that, then I would keep dressing on, won't it be nice for your kids to have more security, financial freedom, with the smaller house and more money in your pocket. All right. A couple other questions. I'll just kind of breeze through them real quick. The next one is kind of asking how much do you want for your house? And it's just kind of give you a ballpark of testing their thermostat of kind of where they're at, if they know the market, if they're realistic or not. And then it's asking a little bit more, is there a price you won't go below? I tend to leave that one off because I don't like painting a worst case scenario for people. If I feel like we are in that situation where it's like, oh, we inherited my mom's place and it hasn't, nobody's cleaned it in a year or something, then I would offer that I have multiple solutions. I work with investors that would offer a cash purchase price within 24 hours of seeing it as is with no closing costs. So we can go that route. But I always like to paint that if you're going to list with me, I'm going to get you top dollar on the market. So I don't like to really talk about what is the lowest price you would take. Because also then I feel like you've got them on a number that if they go back on that number later, then they're liars, or they feel like we failed, you know. Let's see. How much do you owe on the property? That's a good one to find out before you go on the listing appointment. Now, one thing I always say, again, I've been doing it 16 years. When I sit down with my sellers and we have an offer and I do the cost sheet, I always tell them the number you gave me for what you owe on the property was $130,000. So I'm writing that in here. Keep in mind, Sarah, I don't know how much you owe on the property. So if it's different than this, when your lender sends their final statement, then that's the number that you're going to owe. I'm just going off of, I told you to reach out to your lender because they won't give me that information. And I told you to find out what your amount owed is. Also, you want to find out if there's any prepayment penalty or anything else, which a title company can help you do that. But my whole point is, so one time, my second year of doing a cost sheet, I showed them the cost sheet. They told me they owed 180 on it or something. They were going to only lose, or they were going to make $1,000 or something because they had taken out an equity line. Well, then when we got to the closing, the number that they thought they owed was actually $10,000 more. And then they looked at me and they were like, you said the number was this. And I said, well, wait a minute. You said your number was this. And I was going off of your number. And so we literally started like looking at each other at the closing, like who's to blame. And I was just like, and so luckily I'd already talked to Danny Roth, my mentor, beforehand. And he explained, well, you got to present it to them like they're not losing the money. They already made $60,000 on it when they took a $60,000 equity line of credit, and ask them what they did with that. And so I was already prepared, and I was like, well, you know, you're not losing the money. Instead of making what you thought was $60,000, you're actually only making $50,000. And you already used that money to pay off your van you mentioned and to do that vacation, the family vacation. So, you know, I'm glad that you got to enjoy that stuff and pay off the van. Unfortunately, you know, these are what the numbers are, kind of thing. So now I always prepare my sellers that, hey, it's your number. It's not the number I came up with.
Dave, I made the mistake of not, and I think it was because I was moving too fast with this last listing. Literally, we're supposed to close on Tuesday. And the seller called me yesterday saying that she wasn't going to sign the closing docs because she was only making $89,000. And her down payment when she bought the house, mind you, 15 months ago, it's like a year and a half ago, that was her down payment was 90 and she's only making 89 back. But the thing is that I never did the
Cost sheet.
I never did the cost sheet from the beginning. Well, I did do the cost sheet, but I didn't have her sign it, so she didn't remember. And then I says, hey, I gave it to you. And she's like, well, I don't remember that. And she didn't remember it because it was a while ago. You know, she signed a lot of stuff she probably didn't remember, but she didn't sign it. So I couldn't say, you did read this. And she was pissed and she literally did not want to sign. And she because of $1,000. And so it was my mistake because I didn't have her sign it to go back and say, hey, remember you signed this. This is what you were going to make. It's literally $1,000 off of what I told you, which isn't that much. Right. And she was pissed and didn't want to sign. And so I told her, I was like, well, I'll make up for it. Let's get this shit over with because I don't want to deal with you no more. If this is your attitude over $1,000, you're about to make 90. Well,
now that's what Stormy thought. Now, what he said was, let me help you, my client. And by reducing my fees or contributing something, and then even then maybe start off by offering to split the $1,000 or do something, you know. Because again, as realtors, we don't have to solve the problem completely. It was her mistake by not paying attention to the form she's signing, what she's doing. Now you can go one of two ways. And I think Stormy chose the better way. You can say, no, contractually, you are liable to this. You sign this stuff. It's business. I'm sorry. Now you're probably never going to get another deal from them the rest of their life. And they're going to badmouth you to people. So I would try to do it with kid gloves and just say, hey, really sorry for that misunderstanding. Try to explain it to her again, let her know why she's, you know, actually doing well, because usually when people sell a house within 2 years of buying it, they lose money. So it's great that you got all of your money back in this sense. And then again, if we still can't come to terms, then maybe I offer to split it, or maybe offer to do, you know, pay for home warranty on the purchase side or something, you know, different to make her feel like it's a win. But yeah, that, you know, part of that managing expectations, that'll really get you, especially at closing, if they didn't think that there was a 6% brokerage fee, or if they thought that there's no other closing cost fees, you know. So yeah, it's a good point, Stormy.
Going back to the cost sheet, because the same thing happened to me recently. The seller thought he owed a certain amount and he was about $8,000 off. So, I mean, we're basically relying on them to know that amount. So what do you think we can do to eliminate that risk of just taking their word? Should we be asking for their, some type of documentation, or maybe an email from their mortgage company? It doesn't happen often, but in that one, the only way to get to closing was for me to not take a commission. That's the only money that we could change, was my commission, or we wouldn't have closed.
Okay. Well, so yeah, there's some things you can do, but again, they're all based on your seller doing something. So the seller can get their numbers from the mortgage company. They can, a lot of times now it's very easy to go online and just log into your account, and it'll show your principal and balance and everything right there for a total payoff. If not, they can email or call their lender and ask them to send them something through an email or in the mail, which they can get. Now that you really don't have any safety net of holding the seller accountable, except just keep asking them, did you get that final number? Did you get that final number? I want to make sure it's accurate so that we're not, caught off guard later. And whenever I say things, I always say we. I always look at it as like, we're in this together, Mr. Seller. So I don't want us to be shocked at the closing table. I want us to know how much money you're putting in your pocket. And then I want us to know if we need to try to fight for a little bit more, So continuing to reassure them that you're on their side and you're helping them with this process is really important. But the only other kind of fail-safe that you have is when the escrow officer gets close to producing the HUD-1, usually about a week before close of escrow, they do that same thing, and they're authorized to send out a request to the lender for a payoff statement. And then they get the payoff statement from the lender, and it's official. So if you pay attention to your HUD-1s when they come out a couple days before close of escrow, or if you're really worried, like you think this seller said 3 different numbers 3 different times, then ask the escrow company to try to find out a little sooner. Can you get me his payoff information a week before? I'm a little worried that it's not what he says it is, and I don't want to have a problem on the final hour. Sure, we can do that. Or no, we can't get it until 3 days before close of escrow. Okay, great. Well, when you get it right away, will you call or text me so I'm alerted, so I can make sure that the number is one of the 3 numbers he gave me? But really, there's nothing else you can do. And ultimately, it's the seller's mistake, and it's the money that the seller owes. It's not on us to reduce our commission to solve their mathematical problems, or because they need the money more, that we should now give up, our income for the job that we did. All right. So we're past pre-qualification. We've gotten our questions answered. We definitely have a listing appointment. And I already kind of did a little preview into a listing presentation. I always recommend you get there early, dress professional, wear a name tag, bring business cards, be ready to go. Know your audience too. I like to find out a little bit about my sellers before I get there. If I know, like one of my sellers is, I don't know, someone with just like a real social personality. Like, I don't know if you guys know from the Cobe office, Rochelle Brown. I like to use her as an example. She's just awesome energy. She loves to go out to lunch, do fun things. She's great. Now, she's a seller that I would not bombard with a whole bunch of paperwork and facts. I would make it more of a little social get together to talk about selling her house. If you are meeting with an engineer or anybody that does mathematical thinking, or that is big into presentations or facts or science, print out as many things as you can. Bring as many pieces of papers as you possibly can, and just leave it with them. Go, hey, I printed out all of the comps for this subdivision. I even printed out stuff from 6 months ago. I printed out a copy of the CC&Rs. I've got the HOA information here. I've got a copy of the listing agreement. I've got everything. Here's everything for you. Because that engineer is going to read every sentence and go over everything, because that's what engineers do. They just read and take in the information and then kind of fine tune it to make it better. So know your audience. If you have someone that's more social, don't come there with a whole bunch of paperwork. Come there with a smile and a conversation, and keep the paperwork in a bag or a purse or something. If you're going and it's a very, business-minded person or an engineer, then get the paperwork out, get ready to go over everything. Ask them about their questions beforehand, because they're going to have some. So know the seller before you get there, and that'll help kind of, complete your success rate. Let's see. Is anybody prepared to do a listing presentation? That's where I'm kind of at page 18. Does someone want to do a role-playing listing presentation with me? Have any of you guys done a listing presentation yet out loud? Okay. Oh yeah, you said you've been an agent for a little bit. Okay. All right. Well, that would be your homework assignment then. Not that I really give homework assignment, but I really think you guys should put together a listing presentation. I think the Command offers different technology and different printouts that you can do. I'm old school. I still go to Michael Lewis Marketing Suite. And if you want to, I think you can still do that. They have a whole Keller Williams listing presentation packet. It's like 36 pages or something. And you can just print them all out and you look like a rock star with a presentation. What I would recommend doing is going through that and kind of weeding out some of the stuff, because it's a bit too much. I like my listing presentation to be around 10 pages. I feel like that's enough to show that you have substance, but not to overwhelm people with. I can always show you a listing presentation. I didn't bring one with me, which is kind of funny, but I always have something included about the market that, it shows overpriced listings and how it sits on the market. You get the most activity the first 6 weeks on the market, basically. And then after that, it just tails off. So I do that to, caution about overpricing on the listing. One of the other forms I always have in there is a form that says things that don't matter. It doesn't matter what you paid for the house when you're selling it. It doesn't matter what you want to get. It doesn't matter something else. Like it's like 4 no's with X's through them, and it basically just, again, kind of sets the expectation that, hey, Heather, just because you might want $600,000 for your house doesn't mean that we can get it. The comps show 450. So, we need to have a conversation now.
Well, damn.
Right. Sorry. But yeah, I'd say be prepared for a listing presentation. I like the suggestion earlier, start, working with each other, partner up in the group. If you know another new agent that you've sat in a class with, or maybe from somewhere else, or maybe they're on your team, just say, hey, can we start doing our listing presentation every Thursday at 10 o'clock? I want to go over it once or twice with you. Role playing is the best thing you can do to be prepared for your actual appointments. And then, as you get better at it, have them throw more things at you. The first time you do it, I would recommend, if you're the seller, to be very easygoing for the listing agent. Don't set up too many roadblocks, just kind of let them get through their lines because they're just learning them. But hopefully by the time you've done it 10 or 20 times, now maybe Steven can add something to Heather about, hey, Heather, so would you reduce your commission? And now Heather has to scramble and go, what do I say to that? Because I was just about to talk about the comps. And so that's why I have these, it's just like without even thought, I can just say the sayings back to people. In fact, if you want, I always think it's fun to shoot obstacles at me, and then I'll give you my responses. Would you guys like to do that next, or would you like to do a listing presentation? Both? Okay. Well, I could finish my listing presentation just because I think the rest of you guys don't really have something, but I start off asking for the listing right away when I come in. Diane Kokoska goes a little different. She actually has a list of questions that then she goes, let's sit down at the dining room table, because that's where people feel most comfortable. She sits down at the dining room table with them. She leaves them a list of questions. And then she says, while you fill out this questionnaire, I'm going to walk around the house. I'm going to look at it through the eyes of a buyer. It just take a couple minutes, and I don't need your help. I'll come back if I have any questions. Because a lot of sellers will say, oh, well, let me show you everything and why my house is the best. And it's like, you know, I'll just look myself. Now, I don't argue with the seller. One thing I would advise you is to never get on the opposite side of an argument with the seller, because guess what happens? That seller won't hire you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that easy. We're not gonna choose to hire people to work with who argue with us and disagree with something, even if it's just whatever basic about paint color in the bedroom or something. So what I always say is, let's let the market talk. Let's let the market tell us if, you know, we need paint. Let's put it on the market. And then if the feedback is it needs paint, we could offer a paint allowance. And then, you know, technically we don't have to drop the price. We don't have to paint it now. Maybe you pick the wrong paint color. And then the new buyer says, oh, I hate that new paint color. Something like that. So, you know, definitely talking with the sellers, managing expectations, and kind of working out solutions ahead of time will get you in a better place. So I don't do the checklist with them where they do the questions, but I do the tour. I go through the house. And the reason I go through the house is actually for two things. One, of course, we're looking at the property. We're seeing the upgrades. We're trying to get an idea if it can get even more money for, you know, sales price or not. But the biggest thing I'm looking at is their own personal stuff in the house. I'm looking at their framed photos. I'm looking at, you know, so my wife got hooked on cruising a couple years ago. So now whenever I go in a house, if I see one of those cruising pictures, you know, of people in front of the ship or, you know, something with a cruise, then I just start talking about cruises. I, oh man, you know, because most people who cruise love cruising. And then it's like, great, you're just like me. You like to cruise and we're bonding. Sometimes I'll notice pictures of their grandkids and I'll say, oh, these grandkids, where are they? Oh, they're in Florida and that's where I'm trying to move. And that's my big why, my motivation. Great. Now, anytime I hit an obstacle, I go back to, now remember, Stephen, we wanted to get you to Florida to see your grandbabies, you know, this Christmas, not next Christmas. So, you know, we might need to do a price adjustment again. Those kind of things will really help people agree with you. You know, you want your clients to acknowledge that you're the real estate professional and agree with most of your decisions. The hard part is I like to try to make them think that it's their decisions and, you know, present it that way instead of trying to argue or convince them that they're wrong. Because again, anytime you get on the opposite end of an argument with the client, they're going to stop returning your calls. You're going to lose that client because they're going to think, well, if David's not on my page with this, then how can he really fight for what I want? Or how does he really even know me? So, you know, if an agent, you know, I've had sellers before that swear there should be an ad in the newspaper. I've shown them stats that it's less than 0% houses sell in the newspaper ads. You know, I've had sellers swear by open houses. So instead of arguing, like I'll show them the facts. If they still say, well, I know I sold my last house at an open house. I say, great, let's do an open house. You know, I'll do 3. How many do you want? I can get other agents at the office to sit at open. I had one seller that wanted me to do an open house every day of the week. So again, I took the listing. I managed expectations. I said every day of the week doesn't make sense and here's why. But with other agents at the office, we could get 2 or 3 a week and that would really get us a lot more interest than having it open all the time. And she agreed. And so I took the listing and we did it that way. But, you know, again, managing expectations. So after I sit down, after reviewing the property, then I, again, compliment them on their house. I try to make some type of personal connection for whatever I saw. Oh, I saw one of your sons plays football. You know, what position? Oh, that's great. I played football, you know, whatever. And then I get into the business. And again, at that point, I ask for the listing again. I say, okay, so now that I've seen the house and we've had some time to go over some things, are you ready to knock out the paperwork? And I really like saying knock out the paperwork because I don't know, I'm a Midwest guy and I just feel like, man, let's just get it done. You know, that sounds like that's knocking something off of our list and accomplishing something. Let's go ahead and take care of the paperwork now. If they say no, they will tell me what is the obstacle. I really need to know what price you're going to sell it at. I really need to know your marketing and advertising. I really need to know if there's going to be a drone video because I really think those are cool. Great. Yeah, drone video, definitely. Let's do those, you know. You find the obstacles, you go for the listing, you keep asking them to sign, you explain to them anytime they hesitate that the risk reward is worth it because they're not risking anything up front. If you're not charging anything up front, you're paying for your sign up. You paid for your sign. You're paying for the professional photographer. You're paying for the internet presence. Maybe you boost posts on Facebook. Maybe you pay for other things. So right away, you're paying money, your money, and you're giving your time to try to sell this house. and they're not doing anything except signing the listing agreement. And then I always let my clients know too, hey, if there's ever a problem or something where we're not seeing eye to eye, just let me know. Come to me and tell me what I could do differently so I can do that. Give me that chance. But if for any reason it's not working out or something changes, like that job opportunity ends up going away and you stay put, you can cancel the listing at any reason, and there's no penalty, there's no fee. I only want to work with people that want to work with me, and I do a good job, and I haven't been fired yet. So I'm hoping that will work well together. But if anything does changes, you have that out too. You just let me know. We'll withdraw the listing, and then maybe next year when you're ready or after something else opens up, we'll work together then. Does that sound good? I like to do the head nods too when I ask them questions. You know why? People will nod their head back. They'll agree with you. It's proven. So, you give them those yes statements, the reconfirming statements. Wouldn't you want a professional real estate like me to get your house sold fast and for top dollar? Isn't that what you want, Sarah? It is. See, Sarah's nodding. She wants that. So, have that interaction with them. And when you feel any kind of obstacle, then address it. Don't shy away from it. If they say, well, we're interviewing other agents, well, great. Have those other agents helped you with any of the other process about an agent in Texas, about the move? Are those other agents charging any processing or transaction fee? Are those other agents offering to reduce their fees to help put more money in your pocket so you can buy more on the other side if you do multiple deals? Just all those things, because most of the times those other agents will totally drop the ball if they get asked those questions because they're not prepared for it. The last thing I'll do at a listing is push is if I'm not getting it and they're not agreeing to the listing agreement, I usually do a 6-month listing. Sometimes I'll ask for a shorter listing. I might agree to that then, depending on the circumstances. And then my last ditch effort will be, let's do an exempt delayed listing where we take care of the paperwork now. I start marketing and advertising it. And then you finish your task, the paint, the yard work, whatever, and then we'll put it on the market later. If they still won't sign that at that time, then I usually acknowledge that I'm not getting this listing, or maybe it is just, that one out of 100 that say they're just waiting for the right Saturday or for something to happen. Okay. So then I usually thank them for their time. I ask them if they have any follow-up questions. I make sure I've written down any follow-up questions that they had for me, tell them when I'll get back to them with those questions. If we don't have any questions, then I always leave this. Okay, well, I'll check back with you tomorrow. If they're meeting with another agent, I ask what time. And then usually I call them before and after. I'll call before and I'll say, hey, just want to see if you want to, make this, sign this contract, start working together, and I can call the other agent and cancel the appointment for you. Was there anything that you think this other agent will say that would convince you to work with them over me? And if they say, well, maybe they'll do it for 4%, I'll say, well, good luck, or maybe they'll realize, well, no, I guess I don't need to hear anything from them. I was just keeping my appointment because it's a polite thing to do. And I don't like to cause conflict and call people and cancel. They'll be mad at me. Hey, no problem. Why don't I call them for you and cancel that appointment? Go ahead and sign the paperwork. If they say no, they go, hey, no problem. I'll call back after the appointment just to check and see if they said anything that's different than what I said, or if they said anything that didn't sound right and you just want to run it by me. Does that sound good? Great, I'm still on your team. I'm helping you, even with this other agent stopping by. They might say something that doesn't make sense. I'll help you make sense of it. Call me afterwards. I'll call you afterwards. Let's discuss. All right. We've got just a couple minutes left. Do we want to do ahas or do you want me to do obstacles? Okay. So if you guys know, because one of you or two of you, I think, have been agents for a little bit. So maybe you already know some of the obstacles, but if you just want to one at a time, shout out an obstacle that you're a seller and you're not going to list with me unless this happens or something.
I'm not going to list you because I don't like the price that we're putting the house on the market for.
Walter, I can totally appreciate that. I know that you really want to try to get top dollar, and based on the comps, I think, where we're at here is top dollar. Now, of course, this is a crazy seller's market. Again, you guys, pause on this. I wouldn't advise this in other markets, but in our current market, hey, Walter, let's go ahead and shoot for the moon. Let's list it at that higher price and see what the market says, because we have such low inventory. Maybe someone is willing to pay more than anyone's ever paid in here before. And with my marketing, aggressive approach, I know that I'll find the person that'll pay the most. So we could go ahead and list it for more, Walter. Here's the only thing I'd like to do, because you mentioned your big why is to get to Florida and to see the grandbabies as soon as possible. So if within 2 weeks, Walter, if we don't have an offer, or if we haven't had at least 15 showings, I'd like to then adjust the price and either do a price adjustment of either a 5% adjustment or a more aggressive 10% adjustment. Do you agree to that, Walter? Does that make sense?
I can agree to that.
Okay, great. So we'll do it for the higher price that you said and see what kind of the feedback is. And then if not, in 2 weeks' time, we'll either do the aggressive 5% reduction or a more aggressive 10%, and then get some responses off of that. Sounds good? Great. So I didn't get into an argument with Walter that his price is unrealistic, especially know your market. Now, if this was a few years ago and it was a buyer's market, I would not go that way with Walter. I would probably be a little more firm with Walter that, hey, we're just not going to get that price, Walter. It's not a seller's market. You know, this is what they're selling for. Comps show us this. We could try to be a little more aggressive, but ultimately, Walter, that's going to leave us with a stale listing that sits on the market for months. And when people look at that, they're going to think, what's wrong with your house, Walter? Even if we lower the price later, they're going to think, what's wrong that it's been there for 6 months? So that's where I would address, you know, higher asking price when you get that type of seller. We'll do a couple more and then I'll turn it over to Dan.
What about, no, I have my sister-in-law is an agent and my really good friend's an agent, and I can't talk to anybody else.
So I love these ones because so many agents just go, oh, okay, thanks anyways, no problem. Here's what I say to that. First, let's take your sister-in-law as a realtor. So I can appreciate that your sister-in-law is a realtor. Now, let me ask you this. Is she a full-time realtor? Is that what she does for a career, or is she a part-time realtor?
She's part-time.
Okay. So my question to you is, you know, obviously selling your house is one of the biggest things that financially that you'll do in your life. Imagine having like the biggest, riskiest heart surgery that you'll have in your whole life. Would you want to go see a doctor that does the heart surgery part-time, or would you want to see a doctor that's all he does full-time every day?
Okay.
Now, I mean, so here's another thing that I always like to point out when you're talking about a family or friend. So your sister-in-law is a realtor, and I can appreciate that. That's great. Now you find out that she is full-time and she's a successful realtor. So here's what I stress on. Now, I've been doing this for over 16 years, so I've seen this happen a lot. Money tends to change family and friends, and it can cause problems. So do you want your sister-in-law knowing all of your financial business and knowing how much money you're going to make on the sale of this house? Or would that make things a little uncomfortable where maybe she feels entitled to some money, or maybe there's some dispute because it's mom's house first or whatever? And if they say, no, everything's fine with that, then I say, well, how would it feel if your sister-in-law ends up not being able to sell your house? And let's say now you're getting together for New Year's and it's sat on the market for 3 months. Is that going to affect your family get together? Are you going to feel a little different knowing you're going to see your sister-in-law who hasn't been able to sell your house? Is it going to be awkward? Is it going to be uncomfortable? Are you going to still be able to stay friends and family members if they can't successfully sell your house? Are you comfortable firing your sister-in-law if she does a bad job?
Good points.
Those would cause a lot of problems in a lot of families and friends. And so what I like to say is, hey, I take away that problem because it's just business with me. I'm going to show you the numbers. You can fire me if I don't do a good job. You can talk crap about me at Christmas dinner and I won't be there to hear it, you know? Then the last ditch effort I do is if they still say, well, no, she would kill me if I didn't use her. She just got her license and she's really trying to make her first commission, which this happened to me just last year. I said, hey, I totally get that. But again, she's a brand new agent. She's just learning what she's doing. So how about this? You hire me to list your house and sell it. I will give her a referral, even though she's not doing anything. And if she wants to learn some of the business, I can show her some of the things I'm doing and she can get that kind of free education and get a referral. So she's getting free money from you for not doing anything. So she certainly can't be upset with you over that, can she?
Now that's really good. Now flip it about what happened if you're the rookie and they don't want to hire you because you're a rookie?
Well, my first question would be, how do they find out you're a rookie?
Okay, so we don't admit that?
I mean, it's up to you.
You're supposed to be honest and above board and
so here's what I say to that. It's all about, you can be honest, but it's all about the way you present your honesty. So honestly, let's say I'm a new agent. I just got my license. What I would say is I'm with the top company in the world. We have more licensed realtors than anybody else. We have a great coaching program and some of the top agents here in Tucson. So any questions that you have or any obstacles that we come up against, I'm going to use that as a resource to overcome. So we have no issues there. If they find out you're inexperienced, then I would stress, well, here's the great thing is I just finished whatever it is, 136 hours of real estate classes. I just passed a state and a nationwide test. I just did a contract law class. I know more about real estate right now than even an agent that's been doing it for 20 years. Just like those old doctors that don't know the new practices because, you know, they're outdated.
That's true.
So you can sell yourself any way you want. You can say, I'm a new agent. I really like this opportunity. I'm going to work hard because you're my only client, my precious. I'm going to treat you better than anybody else. And that might work. Or you can take the route of, hey, even though I don't have experience, I've got all these resources. I've got Big Dan Caldwell, got my back. He'll answer any questions. I've got, you know, some of the top agents in our industry. I've got the #1 brokerage in the world. You know, we're gonna do fine with this. Like, it doesn't matter that you're my first sale or my first listing.
Those are good.
And I think if you educate yourself enough, they won't even ask that question.
I agree. I don't think it comes up too often. Usually it'll come up if you're fumbling a lot and you're not making sense. And so again, just slow down, tell them you'll get back to them with the answers, and it should work out. Any other listing obstacles? One more question, and then I'll give it back to Dan.
Oh, all the questions. You don't have to give it back.
All right. Well, we already did the commission reduction, which I think is one of the biggest ones.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I just, no. Next question. And if they ask why not, I say, well, here's why. 3% to the buyer's agent, 1% for my marketing and advertising. You don't want to skimp on that. 1% to Keller Williams, the office. And I explained why we're the #1 company in the world and why that's important. And then that last 1% goes to my family and I, which I appreciate and I work hard for. I used to have a guy, he owned the company I worked for before, and he came out and he did a presentation where he'd go on a listing appointment with $101 bills. And when they'd ask if he'd reduce his commissions, he would count it out. He'd go, well, wait, let's look. So he'd count out $94 to the seller. And then he'd go $3 to the buyer's agent, $1 to marketing, $1 to my company. He'd lick the last dollar, stick it on his forehead and go, it's my last dollar. You want to take it from me? And then they'd go, oh, I get it. And then he'd tell them to keep the money too, which I always thought was weird. But that was his point to get across, that you're getting 94% of the money that's coming in here. That's huge when you look at it that. Yeah, if you're arguing the other sense, well, 6% of 500,000 is 30,000, and that's a lot of money. Yeah. On the flip side, 94% of 500,000 is a lot more. So again, it's always kind of the argument and the way that you present it. And I always go back to, hey, the great news is you don't pay me anything if I don't do a successful job that you're happy with. How often in life do you get that presented to you? That, hey, I'm going to do a job of a really difficult task that gets a lot of people in legal and financial troubles, and I'm going to do it for you, and you're not going to have to pay me anything up front, just when I succeed at it. Sounds good.
Big.
I think that's it, you guys. I would say,
I think if Kayla's still the host, or are you the host?
I think Kayla was. I just joined.
That's good. I just didn't want you to end your call because it would end everybody else's. But
ooh. Oh, real quick, let me check the chat because I know there was a question about that. He bought land, is taking equity out of the home and then building a small place to live on the land. Then he wants to sell the house to have the money to build a large house that he wants, looking to list in 6 months. So doing equity line of credit, a lot of times the house can't be up on the market for sale. There can't be any evidence that it's for sale when you're doing a refinance or an equity line. So you'd first want to check with the seller's lender to see if that's the case, without alerting them to red flags if he's doing something that he shouldn't be doing. But ultimately, it seems like he could pull the equity out, put the house on the market, build his little house, and do that no problem. So in the meantime, even if you can't get the listing agreement, you know, you can just start kind of buzzing about it to people and different things, letting them know that something's coming up. Sometimes that's business too. All right, guys, I think that's it for me. Again, focus on your time blocking, schedule yourself lead generation time, schedule yourself follow-up time, schedule yourself time to go through the database and things like that. And then, you know, keep pushing yourself with goals, keep asking for the business. A great thing, Danny Roth was my mentor when I started. He had me take, and I still sometimes do this. I don't have them with me. Oh yeah, they're in my wallet. He has me take money in my business card and put numbers 1 through 20 in the back. And then, you can't go home until you've handed them all out that day. So he would just stop in it's a little harder with COVID, but you can still do it. You know, you can stop into a grocery store, you can stop in at a place of business, you know, wear your mask, be respectful, and just say, hey. He would even just at the end of the day give up on it. You know, during the day, he'd try to make it like, oh, I heard you talking about real estate, or hey, I'm Danny Roth, you know, so-and-so. But then at the end of the day, he'd just say, hey, I told my wife I got to get rid of these 20 cards and she won't let me come home until I do. Can I trade you business cards? Do you have one? And 9 out of 10, they'll laugh and they'll give it. You know what else he does, which I always think is funny, but I can picture him doing it? He walks through a crowded restaurant or a crowded Home Depot and he'll pretend to trip and he'll throw a bunch of his cards all over the air and the ground. And then as people help him to pick them up, he goes, no, go ahead and keep that if you know someone thinking about buying or selling. And that's the kind of guy Danny Roth is, and that's why he's the #1 agent in our office. He just makes everything about real estate. He told me this line that I always do now. When I go through the grocery store line or anywhere, they usually say, how are you today? Or how is it going? Or how are you? And his response is, oh, great. It's a seller's market. I'm selling houses faster than ever and for more money. Do you know anybody thinking about selling? I kid you not, this last year, I've taken down about 6 different names and numbers at the end of the grocery line where, you know, the bag boy is, and I'm sitting there writing down information to follow up on because they knew somebody or they were thinking about it themselves. So business is all around you. You just got to make the conversation about real estate, and then you have to ask for the business. All right, I think that's it. Thanks, everybody.
There's some golden nuggets right there. That was awesome.
Thank you.
No, I'm going to put my number in the chat real quick so you guys have it. You can text or call me with any questions. I'm always available to help or go over a listing presentation or anything you want. There you go, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you, David.
Hopefully it doesn't end.
Thank you.
Round of applause for him.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. Well, hey, I wanted to touch base on, I heard when we started the call that you guys didn't know where to find your documents. And as David said, it's really important to start going through that stuff right now. Raise your hand if you've heard .loop. Yes, Sarah's got the package too. So .loop is where you actually get your documents. You have a login for .loop that was sent to you through your Keller Cloud. It's an email that when you started on, you had your access to command, DocuSign, .loop, everything. Make sure you fill all that stuff out. I know that Nicole has, because she's asking a ton of questions on how to change profile pictures on stuff. Figure it out. Go poke it around. Go break it. Go figure some out and know where the screens are and play with it. Don't wait until you get a seller or a buyer to figure out where the contracts are. And
Yeah.
.loop is your friend.
Yes, I would. I'd love to. Thanks. Oops.
Yes. I would love to also, Marla. It's okay.
If you meet with Catalina Title also, and I do believe they have stuff in the back by where the mailboxes are, they will give you one. And if you look inside of it, it gives you, like, it's all broken down for you so that you can, you know, it gives you just education on it. So it's very helpful.
As you can see on my screen now, this is your MyKW login, mykw.kw.com, your intranet. Up here where it says start a transaction, this is where we do our transactions at. So the top right, I saw Nicole lean in. Did you see that? Right here. Click on start my transaction. That will take you into .loop.
You don't have to go to .loop direct?
You can if you want to, but you don't have to. We try to make it easy for you. But if you are logged in and you see Keller Williams, or if you're on and you see a deal and it's got red and black instead of blue, you're in the right area because we have our own custom coloring. But that's where you're at. I would advise you click on the top where it says templates, and you're not going to have a personal template. But go and look at these. These are the different template bundles. MLS, AR Armless for you, Sierra Vista and Cochise County, Arizona Association Interactive, which is most of the forms. We don't really use the other 4. Those are the 3. So you're going to use your KWSA docs, or Green Valley will be the 861 docs. MLS AZ for Tucson listings, Armless for other information for Armless listings, Arizona Interactive for most of your purchase contracts, addendum, and forms. And they're all here. Go get
I have a question.
with them. Go ahead.
I have
I have a question. How do we know what the list is of the documents for the buyer side or for the seller side? I'm still confused on that aspect to know which documents I'm going to need.
You muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. But that, you can get that list. I'll send out a compliance list, which is one you can have it, but it's also in command. You know which documents need to be there, but the compliance list is the easiest way to check things off.
There's one in command, you said?
Yeah, so in command, under each deal. Once we will be going back to command, don't you fret. We will be going back to command for compliance once we can get it fixed.
Okay.
In your opportunities, I'm just going to go into one that I have active. Actually, I'm going to move this back to showing this. And you go into your documents tab. You'll have so this is going to be buyer, create folder. And why isn't it bringing me a checklist? So I went land listing, and then I'll have my listed documents. So here's all that you need. Required, 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 required. Optional or conditionally required. Optional meaning you don't need it, but it's good to have. Conditionally required means if it's got a well, or it's through a power of attorney or an LCC, then you'd have to have it. Conditionally required, meaning if that condition is met, that form is required. And then under contract, you have the same thing.
Since I have no current listings, can I just make one up that way I can get to the documents aspect to be able to see what documents are required?
100%. I want you to send me a purchase contract. That's one of the things we're going to do is just do trial runs and go through and net all that stuff. But you have, again, on the buyer side, if this was a purchase, I need to go to the purchase ones now. So you can see that this is all live. I can pick a checklist and I can go residential new construction or resale, depending if it's new construction or resale. And then you have, again, your under contracts, meaning that you got a house, you get them under contract, closed, or just the consultation, which means the buyer's consultation. So the class we kind of went through yesterday, here's the forms just needed for the buyer's consultation.
Awesome.
And conditionally required only if they're needed. And then under contract is a repetition of some of those things. We want to make sure that that information is in place.
Okay.
Then you can, if you wanted to upload them here, you can. So you have your documents in one place, but the in dot loop is where we actually will be uploading your documents. Like here's the listing I just signed this morning. All these documents are needed for the listing to start.
Okay.
And then once they're uploaded, there's a whole dot loop class on how you can actually pull documents by adding them from a template. You can go through those templates we were talking about so you know where they're at. And you can add the form in. You can add it from your computer or you can email it directly from an email. So there's a lot of things on dot loop itself. It's a different class, but this way you can at least go and start poking around in the templates and knowing what each form is. We're going to do a PC call where we're actually going to show you how to make personalized templates through dot loop. And I think it's part of the dot loop call that they just did. And once I get that recording out to you, I will.
But there's still no like checklist of A, B, C, D, E, what you have to do and what forms and stuff, huh? Like a one-page how-to do?
I already told you no.
I know, but I want you to make one.
Then make
Command
one.
is the best one. If you go in command, that's the best one because it's got slots for each document and it lists them.
Okay.
If you're looking for a roadmap,
I learned from that.
What?
Nicole's looking for a roadmap. She's looking for I got a buyer, what do I do?
Yeah.
That's what Ignite is. It's building your own roadmap. Every buyer, every seller, every situation is different. They all have the same flow. Notice how the command or the Ignite classes is started with the mindset, then the database, then the scripting, then the lead gen, then the appointments, then the buyers, then the sellers. We build as we go because we want you to build a fortified thing. And as you're growing into this, you're going to grow into that. I'm not going to ever give you a playbook and says, this is what you do with every buyer and seller.
I know, because there's
It's gonna
there still has to be you have to have this form and you have to have this form or you're going to get in trouble or it's not going to go through or something.
The compliance side of it is go in there and look at the purchase contract. One of the things that we're going to do for you guys as we get close to the end, and what the last class is contracts to close timeline, is actually going through the purchase contract and highlighting every time frame, every time window, every need, every document that you need to have and when you need to have it, who needs to provide it, so that you have an understanding of the timeline of the contract. That's the contract to close. What you need to do is the contact to contract, which is get their information, set an appointment, have a consultation, either buyer or seller. We've gone through both classes now, buyer or seller, and then get under contract. Then it becomes a process, contract to close.
Okay.
Your timelines, if you're interested in knowing the timelines, is I think it's the Arizona Association forms, critical dates list. I think it's critical dates list. Okay. Yeah, critical dates list. So I'm going to share this again.
And we can give that one to our clients, right?
Oh, yeah.
So help keep them on track?
Yeah, the critical dates list is going to be one of the best points you can use. It's going to have all your information in one place. Don't give the other agent or don't give your client the other agent's information if you don't need to. But then it gives you the actions needed in chronological order. It doesn't have a date to it like day 1, day 2, but some of these are buyer to provide lender with application 3 days after contract acceptance, buyer to grant lender permission to access credit report 3 days after contract. Those should both be done because you should have a pre-qual in place. This is kind of what you're looking for. And that's what I said the other day, the critical dates list gives you an outline, buyer to supply LSU, buyer to provide notice of any items disapproved, buyer to apply for home insurance, buyer to order a termite inspection. This should have been done during the inspection period, way back here. That's why I say it's not quite in order.
And where is this list?
In .loop.
Okay.
In .loop under the Arizona Association Interactive, which is going to be the bulk of all the documents right here, Arizona Interactive Documents. That's where you find your addendum, your clauses, your affidavits. It's going to be a majority of anything you need for the buyer side on the contracts. And if you're working with the sellers, you find a lot of those documents through the different MLSs. If you're in Armless, like I know the Plums, or if you're in TAR, like the most of us, that's the forms. TAR, sorry, it's MLS AZ now. But you'll have the MLS specific documents because they're for listings in that MLS. But for almost all your contract stuff, you're going to use Arizona Interactive, or for some of the advisory forms, your KWSA documents, or the Sierra Vista. It has a Sierra Vista KLP one, depending on what market center you're tied to, has different bundles. But the majority are going to be Arizona Association Interactive documents. And like Steve said, Steven is right on point. Do I need to have one to do it? No, go and create a fake account, do it in command, create a fake client, put a fake opportunity in there, go to .loop, make a fake contract. And if you want to just try it like full real play, send it to me as if I was the listing agent, or send it to me as if I were the lister or the seller. If you want to go through and even add DocuSign, put yourself as the email to send the DocuSign to so you can see what the signatures look like. This is where the homework comes in, because what's our daily homework now?
Lead generation.
What does it look like?
10, 10, 10, 10,
10,
10, 10, 10, 10. I don't want you to say it so begrudgingly. It's 10 contacts added to your database. How many did you add yesterday?
14.
14. Boom. Marla. 0. Heather. 0. Sarah.
Oh, I got 6. It's not 10.
6?
I got 6. I'll take 6.
Oh, how many did you add yesterday?
I think there was 10.
You
I
think?
got to add them still. They're on the paper.
So they're not in your database.
I got to put them in the command. Yeah.
So they're not in your database. Say it. They're not in my database. Yet.
Yet.
All right.
That's the key
Lisa,
word.
how many you add?
8.
Hey, Joseph.
I contacted 20. I didn't put them in my database, but yeah.
Okay, so not in your database yet. Let's get him in there today, please. Plus, Joseph sent off for referral to Phoenix. Good job, man. All right, Stormy. Did you add anyone in your database yesterday? He's not listening. It's okay. This is every day. See what I say? Like, had I not called out some of you for the notepad thing, would you ever have taken the notepad into your database? Probably, but that's not the habit we're building. We want to build the habit when you get them that go in the database that day. We don't want to wait, because I've got a full notebook here of random shit. And one habit I have is because I write a lot of notes. By the end of the day, I recap the notes. If I need to keep it, I keep it. If not, I destroy the note and throw it away. I put the notes in the database. I put the notes where they need to go. But that's the 10, adding 10 to your database every day. Next to that is contacting 10 people in your database every day. That's
So
what
if they don't
go ahead.
If they don't pick up or you don't actually contact them or they haven't responded, do you still add them to your database and start, I don't know what the word is, not spamming, start like getting them on a drip program still, or?
Absolutely.
Do you
I mean,
wait
that's
till-
the thing. Set them up for a plan where you can remember to go back and try to make contact.
Okay.
That's
What about
absolutely.
the houses that say no soliciting? Do you guys still knock on the door or leave a card, even though the house says no soliciting, don't leave your flyers?
No,
Okay.
they've asked not to.
Yeah.
I will make it a point to send them something in the mail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, because the one thing you can't scrub out your spam on is the mail. Everyone gets that flyers of papers every day.
You just can't put anything in the mailbox because
You
it's
just
illegal.
can't put it in the mailbox. You have to send it. So this is where we start building foundations to business, is adding, contacting, and nurturing. That's what the cards are. In the email I sent the other day, I have not heard anybody dropping off any cards to the market center. That does not mean you're not doing them. It just means that I don't have to pay for your postage. I hope you are sending them. But let me be honest with you. Are you sending them? What is keeping you from doing so?
I know nobody's address except for my own and my mom's.
That's the whole point of the contact part.
Really? Whoa.
Whoa. You mean I'm supposed to call people and get information that I don't have?
Is this a new thing? I haven't heard this before.
It's amazing. It's new. It's new technology. Brand new since 1800. Do you guys not have note cards? Do you need some note cards? Do I need to pay for those too? I mean, shit, I got 2 stacks of note cards here.
Well, since you said it.
Dog. So it's a puppy dog. They're blank on the inside, and a bridge.
On Amazon, I found like you can get 100 cards in an organized box for $25.
Cool. I got 25 cards in each stack. The first person who comes and gets them can have them. But you can only have 1 stack. And they better be freaking mailed this week or next week, or this weekend if you haven't done so. I will give you the cards and I will give you the postage. All you got to do is fill it out and put an address on it. The only thing I can do to make it easier is just put you onto my paycheck.
I take dibs on that.
There you go. First one. All right. This is where we guys, I laugh about it and I want to be light, but I've got to nail home this expectation, because you're not going to get to where you need to be fast enough by not doing the things that you need to do outside of the class structure. When I turn off the Zoom, what do? You are booked until noon. You should be on your calendars anyways. I try to give you at least a couple of minutes to go and do some stuff at the end of class. I mean, seconded to turning in Utah, and you let you guys all just call right then and there. How we know it's getting done? You got to report.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question. On on calling my close contacts, my friends and family, ex-coworkers and stuff, when they they don't answer and there's a voicemail, do you like to still go ahead and put Big Dan Caldwell from Keller Williams, or do you like to just use your personal name and get them to call you back?
If it's a friend and we've got a really good friendship, and it's just touch and base, hey man, miss you, give me a call. I don't even leave my name. Or how dare you not answer my call? Give me a call back immediately. Miss you, bud. Make it fun. When you have a relationship, fortify the relationship. I got a text yesterday from a buddy of mine that I used to sell cars with. I trained him. He's like, hey, are you, he just sends me a text. He goes, lunch meeting soon. I need to get real about this real estate stuff because he wants to buy a house.
You don't have any.
I was all, sure, you're buying. Not a typical response from a salesperson. Like, yeah, I'll take you to lunch. I was like, sure, you're buying. Just fun. But you want to fortify relationships because people will trust you for being you. If all of a sudden you turn, you're like, thank you for calling Keller Williams. I'm here to help you buy a house. You're not who you say you are. You're not congruent with who you are. So if they're a good friend, family member, somebody you haven't talked to in a while, ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, what have you, and you guys have a good relationship or some nicknames or stuff like that, use it in the voicemail. And even when they call, pick up the phone. Keller Williams, Southern Arizona. It's Big Dan. And
I thought about doing that one of my.
What's that?
I thought about doing it that way when they called back because I called somebody yesterday and just gave them my name and told them to call me back. And then I thought about doing the Keller Williams when they called back.
Yeah, do the Keller Williams call. Hey, Steve, it's Big Dan. Give me a call. Hey, it's me. Call me back. And they call me back. Who's this? I answer my phone. Big Dan Kelwell. It's a beautiful day at Keller Williams. This is Big Dan. Or thank you for calling Keller Williams, Southern Arizona. This is Big Dan. Even if my mom or sister calls, I'll caveat that. I do that when I'm in public. If I'm at the office here, I'll just answer my phone. What's up, bud? What do you need? What's going on? But if I'm in public, I always use the greeting because I want people around me to hear I'm in real estate. Especially if you're standing in line at the grocery store.
So have your other significant other call you every time you're in line is what you're saying.
Or you just act like you're answering a phone call. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't done that. I have done that. What do you mean the market's hot? Sell, sell, sell. All right. No. But get out there and do something, guys. Go lead generate. Talk to 10 people. You'll start seeing a big dividend. And then I will, if I remember, I will send out that compliance checklist in the Ignite email. With you also.
Any document. One more time. I know you already touched base on it, but over the weekend, I really want to go through the purchase contracts and stuff. Any documents that I want to print out to practice with will be on Dotloop, correct?
All of them will be on Dotloop. I say all of them because Dotloop is our document repository right now.
Okay, and then I can do that mock one. And if I get to it, I can do the mock one in Command. So it'll give me the list and the timetable to start getting used to.
Right. Right. Read through the contract, read through the critical dates list. I can't hear you, Nicole.
Are we going to learn how to put a listing in MLS? Because I just took that class
Not
and then what?
Not in Ignite.
Oh, because they were talking about how you can get fined.
We have a class on that already. It's a thing we do in PC. It's already there.
Okay.
On it. Just check the right boxes.
Right, because I was like, what is up with all these fines and these specifics and
Nicole, when you go put one in MLS, they'll make you fill everything out. If you don't, they'll tell you you missed five things, so on and so forth. As you go through and do it, there's also within the MLS program, there's help and video and stuff like that. Go in there and explore it.
Yeah, I mean, I literally haven't done anything on anything. There's so much, my brain hurts.
Go in there and explore it. They have material in there to help you out.
Okay, thanks. A lot of self-doing.
Yeah. Because you're self-employed.
Yes. Don't we know it? All right. Well, are we done?
I
was inside dot loop and it looked different than what you had on the screen. What you had was like red. What I have is like totally blue. And when I went into templates, everything's blank.
Yeah, it's the wrong one.
Oh.
So I'll have to have you email tech, TECH at 1kwsa.com and have her get it switched. I'm glad that you checked. And that's why I did that, because we made it very distinct. One's red and black, one's blue. So
Okay,
the email
so
again is tech, TECH at 1kwsa.com.
give me 1 second to grab a pen.
And you said ours should be.
What's that? You keep muting half sentence. Can't hear you.
Sorry, I keep trying to hold out long enough to talk.
Oh, you're doing the spacebar thing. Cool. Smart.
What was that email address?
Tech, TECH at 1kwsa.com.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. Awesome, guys. What is 11:30? You got 30 minutes left of your day in Ignite time, so get some contacts out there, wrestle babies, fight cactuses, whatever you need to do. Give me an update today of what you've done for the week, please. I'd like to have an update of full contacts added, people you've talked to, note cards written.
Okay.
Head nods? You acknowledge? For those of you who are watching the recording, I'm expecting you to nod your head as well and feel stupid because you're the only one in the room. So thank you again, everyone. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Over the weekend, 10-10 still counts. It's the best time to do so. Look at the contracts, read them, practice things, and get yourself in the mindset of what am I going to do when I get a client, and we'll start practicing that. And then you will learn exactly how to handle that in the coming days. Thank you so very much. Have a beautiful Friday. And for those of you who are coming to the Market Center today to come meet Kristen Cole, do so. There's going to be snacks.
I'll be there. Bye.
Bye.